can do it. I'll also try to do it on I'm going to see if I can do it direct to YouTube. So give me 1 second, everybody. Oh, I may have to get, might be a 24-hour wait on that. I'll see here. One sec, I'm doing some behind the scenes things here. I'm still here. Oh, okay, so I won't be able to live record until 24 hours, but I'm recording now to the computer. So they're going to be posted like the others at the YouTube website there. So go ahead first, Barbara, ask your question.
Yeah, I wanted to find out what's the latest you've heard on the iPhones. Last time we had a Saturday meeting, you said they might be coming out in October rather than September. Just wondered if you had any new info.
I have not heard any change from that. There are indications that in September we may get a new Apple Watch and some new iPads, possibly an iPad Pro and a regular iPad. That's kind of the rumor. The phone, they in the last conference call or the last shareholder quarterly report, they said that they would be delayed around 3 weeks or so, which puts it in early October. So we're hoping that the phones come in October, and unlike the normal second week of September. So good question.
And then the Macs, I assume, will be out sometime in the spring.
Well, Macs kind of are on their own schedule, and there's, they've recently released a new MacBook Pro. There is talk. They just released a new iMac also, or they upgraded the iMac. But what's happening going forward is they're integrating the chip that we use that's in the iPhone. That chip will be going into the Macs, and they're going to get away from Intel. And that transition will take a little while, but it's going to be really good because they're super power efficient. Apple controls them. Apple does not manufacture them, but they design them, and they have Taiwan Semiconductor make the chip. And it is by far way ahead of what Intel's doing, because Intel has to make kind of like a pickup truck, and then people add things to the pickup truck to make it work, where this is from day one designed to be an Apple chip. So
Is that the kind of thing that you would wait a little while until the chip is out there circulating with all of us to see what happens? You don't want to buy a completely redesigned car the first
that's the conundrum. Do you want to go that? And they say first revs, you don't. But the Intel chips that are out there are quite good, and the new version of the iMac that came out, the new version of MacBook Pro, are very, very good machines. So I'm not gonna vote either way on that. Hard to tell. They did put a test version for the developers so they can start writing the code and everything. They made a Mac Mini available to the developers that has that new chip in it, because it will take a little tweaking on the developer's part, but it really is a good thing going forward. But I wouldn't, I think on laptops, it's going to be a more dramatic difference because the chip is very, very, very economical from the amount of power it uses. Whereas on a desktop, it doesn't matter because you're tied into AC power. So,
thank you. Very helpful.
And Kimberly Smith, I saw your thing in the chat. Go ahead. Unmute yourself, Kimberly.
I watched the recording of the last session that you did, and you covered on maps how to find
Yeah,
your
I'm
parked car.
gonna go over that, and if I don't satisfy that, feel free to ask
Okay.
a question during that. I will definitely do that.
Great, thanks.
Uh-huh. Okay, other questions in the thing? No Zoom update for iOS. You
I
know,
answered that.
that's just those updates for iOS just happen when apps get updated.
I
But
answered
you're not
that
going to
one.
get those things on, I think. Bob, what?
Look at the last entry. I answered it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you guys, there's the chat window that pops out also, and you can ask questions in there, and people will give you answers. Let's see, recording. Thank you for those reminders. Is there a way to access the replay for the last iPhone class? Yes, and Bob sends the link out. He's sending it out to just the YouTube channel. That's the MacNexus channel I use, and they'll be up there. And just like today's will be there too. Today's should cover the same ground, but also dig a little deeper because we have more time. So Gary asked me about could I comment on the migration to the new 5G networks? Yeah, since we're talking about the phone, 5G is, when 5G is fully implemented, it will be incredible. It's a paradigm shift on the way that the networks operate. And what 5G will do once it's rolled out, again, I don't think you're going to see big proliferation of 5G. We're already seeing it being rolled out, but it's not going to have all the implications until 5 years from now, I would say, will be fully implemented. So what 5G is, the 5 gigahertz network, or excuse me, I'm sorry, it's the 5th generation network of cellular. We started out with 2G, which was edge networks where you couldn't make phone calls and talk on the phone at the same time. Then there was 3G, that was a big update. Then 4G, or LTE, which is called long-term evolution, which is what we currently are using predominantly. 5G is the next step beyond that. 5G is, well, first of all, let's debunk all the rumors. So there's people that seem to think that the coronavirus is due to 5G, and that there's everything in the world is related to 5G. Well, 5G is just simply a radio wave, and you're getting bombarded with radio waves all the time. So you can put on your tinfoil hat along with your tinfoil suit if you don't want to be bombarded by all these waves, but they've all proven to be very, very safe. You actually get more effect from the radiation from the sun than you do from these waves that go through your body. Now, that being said, it's the same way your microwave oven cooks the food. It's the collision, or the point where these two waves meet, that excite the molecules and cause it to cook. So yes, if you have one antenna beaming directly at you and another antenna beaming directly at you with lots and lots of power, it might do something, but that's not how things happen. The signal goes out from one point from an antenna in many directions. And they don't put a lot of antennas right next to each other. But I always find it really interesting that the same people that are worried about living under power lines because of the electromagnetic radiation are the same people that wore those stupid bracelets, that were magnetic bracelets, to have better health. So I guess one magnet is good and one magnet is bad. No, it's all just poppycock. Anyway, 5G is inherently very safe, and actually it's safer than the current ones because the 5G signal does not radiate out as far as the 4G signals do. So therefore they have to place more towers because the signal is very quick, but it doesn't go as far. So therefore they're going to have to put more towers in. And in essence, that's because it's weaker. Now, T-Mobile has they're putting out some 5G on what's called the 600 megahertz band. And that's the band that KCRA and Channel 10 all used to use from the big towers down there. Before we had HDTV, they were transmitting on these lower, they were very high frequency instead of ultra high frequency waves. And they travel farther and they saturate buildings better. So they're rolling that out for 5G in the rural areas. But what 5G will do is it will take, and right now you have your internet comes in, most of you, from over your phone line or your cable line to your house to a modem. Then the modem gives it to a router, and the router distributes it both wired and wirelessly throughout your house. Well, when 5G is fully implemented, you will also be able to get your home, and it'll still be mobile, and it will be from the mobile carriers, but it will allow you to connect your devices. Like your phone is currently connected to a cell tower. When it's at your house, it connects more through the Wi-Fi. What will happen is you won't need the router at home, and you won't need the modem at home, because you'll get a fast enough signal with 5G that all the devices you have hooked to your router, your Hue lights, your unlocking door, your MyQ front door, like my microwave is on my Wi-Fi, all of those will not have to be connected to a home router. They'll be connected directly to the cell tower. So therefore, you're eliminating that router in the home network. Now, obviously, they'll have a home network pod, so it comes in, and instead of being a modem you get from the cable company or the phone company, you'll have a modem or a router that will pick up the wireless signal on 5G, and it can then distribute it wirelessly through your house. But you actually can, as the devices implement and have the 5G chip in them, they will go ahead and they can replace the router. But the beauty is the devices can then talk to one another. And so I'll give you an example that I think is the easiest way to kind of portray it. Once cars are connected to 5G, one car could ultimately communicate to the car ahead. And so therefore, all these cars can communicate to one another. And if a car is slowing down because there's a wreck or traffic ahead, your car will get notified of that. So it will be constantly connected. There's no more inherent hacking. In fact, it's less able to be penetrated than other things out there. So yes, there's the concerns about all that, but we're all pretty connected most of the time anyway. And to be honest, the cell signals are very, very safe for your connections. So 5G will open up a lot of avenues. And the big thing is the latency or the delay time will be very low. And if you have a good connection, your speeds will be very, very high. And it's gonna make new things possible. There's some controversy right now because a company called Huawei, which is essentially owned by the Chinese government, they are doing huge pushes in other countries to do 5G. Most countries are getting very smart and not wanting to use their back end for the 5G because they can have vulnerabilities. China is not they don't care about your privacy and your security, and they use it to their advantage. So the predominant chip maker in the US, or the owner of 5G, is Qualcomm, and Qualcomm is rolling out. There are a couple phones out right now that are 5G capable. 5Gs use a lot of battery, so it's really, we'll be very interested. The Pro versions of the iPhones this fall, the iPhone 12s, every indication is they will be 5G, but don't think that it's going to be just fantastic, because you're only as good as your weakest link. And if you're out somewhere where there's no 5G towers, you're not getting the benefit of 5G. But the fallback will be the current 4G that you have, 4G LTE. So it's not like it's going to be any worse than what you have. The chances are it'll be much, much better. And there's some different waves in it. So it'll be your phone calls. It'll be not so much difference on your phone call. It'll be how fast you're able to download the internet. And then as the 5G gets built out, the nice thing is it'll take some of the load off the 4G. So those people still on 4G LTE will have more availability of the bandwidth because it's being utilized by the 5G. So, but it'll be a while till you're going to get a lot of different things from it, and it's going to constantly improve. I'm really interested to see how it's going to affect battery life on the new iPhones, because that's been a rub. I think there's only about 10 5G phones out right now from different companies. So that's long-winded, but it's kind of what's happening, and you're going to see it dramatic, but don't expect it just overnight to be, wow, this is amazing. And it's going to depend on where you are. So T-Mobile seems to be rolling out the biggest amount of it, of covering the biggest area, where AT&T and Verizon are concentrating more in cities, certain cities and things like that. And just to let you know where it comes in, AT&T, I think, they're trying to pull wool over people's eyes, where they made where it says on your phone where the little bars are, where it used to say 4G or LTE, they decided to just make it so it said 5G and you weren't connected to 5G, but they made your phone say that. So yeah, that's kind of how AT&T operates. So. All right, so any phone connection, and this is good because it does cover the phone. It'll transition us right into the phone, and I'm going to talk about carriers and things like that. But does anybody have any questions on 5G? This would be a time. Or comments too, because I surely don't know everything about it. Anybody, go ahead and speak up, raise your hand.
And
yeah,
aren't
Bob.
there two flavors of 5G?
Yeah, there's MMW, microwave. Well, and actually there's kind of three, I believe, because T-Mobile using the 600 megahertz is going to be one flavor. And then the other flavors are the full speed and then the mini microwave or whatever it's called. And more than likely, we don't know for sure, the phones will cover, like right now, there's many different channels that the phones use. So it probably would cover all of those networks. And again, you're playing to two masters here. There's very rural coverage where you don't have as many towers. And then there's in the cities where you load up and put many more towers in so that it can be there. And they're doing towers now on light posts and things like that because they really need to get the coverage for 5G. And it looks like your normal now big three phone carriers will be the ones that are doing the 5G. It was a lot of the impetus for why Sprint was acquired by T-Mobile. It allowed them to be a little bit bigger. And I don't know if those of you are aware with Verizon, the rural coverage on Verizon was usually the best. T-Mobile is starting to surpass that. But Verizon indications are they were going to turn it off last year at the end of the year. It looks like they're turning their old CDMA network off the end of this year. So you will, if you had really good rural coverage with Verizon, you may not any longer because that was a whole different protocol. And we'll see what happens with that. But, I know I know specifically from T-Mobile, they're going out and they're using this new, with the 600 megahertz band to cover the rural areas. But nothing's perfect out there, and you'll see. So thanks for that, Bob. And that's what you meant, right, Bob, is the micromillimeter,
Right. Yeah.
micromillimeter wave or whatever it's called, something of that, MMW, I believe.
And you have a hand up.
Okay. Oh, I don't see it.
Oh, it was Matthew.
Oh,
Yes,
Matthew, do you have a question? Go ahead.
Oh, you may have already answered it. So I guess this is doing away with the old GSM versus CDMA phones with the new 5G.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. It's not because of 5G. CDMA, which is what Sprint used to use, a version of it, and Verizon, of course, uses CDMA, but they both were transitioning over to LTE or 4G long-term evolution, or what they call VoLTE, so voice over LTE. So they were sending voice over the data network. and they are turning it. They were going to do it a year ago, but it looks like, well, 8 months ago, but they're going to probably do it the end. Not probably. They've said, everybody, they're going to do it the end of this year, and they're going to stop CDMA. And it's because they actually have to have, it's different chips in the phone, and CDMA is not as, it takes a little bit more energy from the battery, but also they have to have the towers are a little different. So that's where I was alluding to the fact where Verizon's rural service may get a little less. So last I checked, they're still scheduled to shut it down December 31st, which, by the way, will affect some cars and things like that. And then AT&T is shutting down, I think it's their old Edge network, which is GPRS, which some cars use also. So those were all, that was technology from back in the iPhone 4 days. So it's pretty, I think what they're trying to do is there's only so much room on these towers, and they want to make sure they have the latest and greatest, and they figured that old technology is going away. Does that answer it for you there, Matthew?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let's see. How to rotate text in Pages. Well, that's probably not for today's discussion. We do need to do a Pages class. Oh, and I'll point out, so Pete Losey will be the speaker at the next general meeting, and we may have some updates. We think by the next general meeting that iOS 14 will be released, Big Sur will be released, and we'll have a better handle on what's coming hardware-wise. So I'll be there, but he'll be speaking. And then next month at this time, hopefully I have a good internet connection, but I will be in Bishop, California, photographing the fall colors over there. So my plan is to do this remotely, kind of like now. And if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know, but I hope I have a good connection from there, but keep posted on that. So, all right. Any other 5G or connection things? I am going to talk briefly about carriers.
Well, I don't know how to get it so you can see me.
I have a question.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Kathy.
We cannot receive or make phone calls when close to the Dell computer with our iPhones. Everything's iPhone here except for this one Dell computer.
Yeah, I'd get rid of it. It's a PC.
Yeah. So we used to be able to, you read it, I can't read your writing.
Does it do the same whether it's on, if the Dell computer is completely off, does it do the same thing?
Tried that.
Haven't tried that.
I would try that because they're, computers have EMF or electromagnetic frequency or electromagnetic field things that block it, but it may be putting out a Wi-Fi signal or something like that. So I would see if it's, what that'll do is that's going to tell you whether it's location in the house that's the problem or it's the actual computer itself. And when I say shut it down, I mean shut it down and even unplug the power plug from it and see if it reacts the same. If it reacts the same, then we have to look at something else. But yeah. I guess it's just maybe it's Apple's got something built into your phone that says, hey, I just don't want to be around Dell computers.
Right. Yeah, well, Peter said he used to be able to do that, but not now.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. And then the other thing is, and I'll go over Wi-Fi calling during the class here. And so, in fact, if I don't cover, I'm going to put it on my notes right now so I can discuss Wi-Fi calling. That may cover it. All right.
Thank you, Ken.
You bet. So let's move on here and let me write down Wi-Fi calling. Oh, great. Okay. So I am going to share. Great. So, okay, that's fine. Good deal. So I'm actually presenting this keynote from my iPhone. So we'll go through this. Yes, I already started the recording. So if for some reason it pops off the screen or something, please let me know. But the whole thing about the iPhone, it's, I say, let's go forward by getting back to basics. And I did this for the Apple user group up here in Lincoln Hills, and I just think it's important because we can get really geeky about other things, but we need to go back and make sure we have the basics. And there's so many choices on the iPhone. I'm going to completely go through all the preferences today and everything else. And I say, let's outsmart our smartphone. So first thing, the iPhone was introduced on my birthday in 2007. This is a picture of the original iPhone. It went on sale June 29th of the same year. I waited in line, as I'm sure some of you did, and we could buy the 4 gigabyte model, was $499, and the 8 gigabyte model, which was as big as we thought you'd ever need, was $599, and that came with a 2-year contract to AT&T. And the amazing thing is that Apple negotiated with AT&T while giving them the exclusive. They were able to get it to be unlimited data. And if I'm not mistaken, it was $25 a month is what you paid for the phone. And at the time, there were other, quote, smartphones. There weren't really. There was the Samsung Q and the BlackBerry, and they were just not great phones. And their data plans for data part of the whole plan started at $40. So I'm a firm believer that by Apple negotiating that to be a maximum of $25, it made that barrier of entry into the phone quite good, because I think if it had been $40 a month for just the data, there wouldn't have been as many people that embraced the iPhone. So I really think that was a coup. You'll notice the apps along there. So back the original text, the SMS message was not, you could only text people, you couldn't send photos. Excuse me, you couldn't send photos, you couldn't do anything else. It was simple text. Calendar operates very much as it does today. You'll notice photos was a little bit different. You couldn't do much editing on it. There were some very simple things. You had the camera, every year that they bring out a new phone, the camera improves dramatically. But the big key to the success of the camera, and why when I travel, I used to take 20% of my photos with the iPhone. Now when I travel, I take 80% of my photos with the iPhone. It's the software behind it. My screen behind me that was an iPhone photo. So as are most of the ones I show. The YouTube channel, that was on there, and then stocks, maps, and little trivia there. The maps location there shows the old Apple campus, and the new maps is located to the new Apple campus. The weather app hasn't changed much, the clock app. The calculator app, it's not changed much at all. I'll show you how it can become a scientific calculator. Notes, settings, and then iTunes was actually the iTunes store. So now we jump down to the bottom row. Obviously, it's a phone. It still makes phone calls, email, and Safari. And then the iPod was there because that was essentially the way you played your music and podcasts and things like that. So there was not any ability to add other apps. These were built in from Apple. And a little bit of a trivia. In fact, I encourage everyone at some point, go back and watch the presentation of Steve Jobs when he presented the iPhone. It was, I think, the best presentation he ever made, and it's amazing what it's done for Apple. But a little trivia on that was, the guys that developed each of the apps were kind of in the second row of the theater that he was presenting it in at Moscone Center. And Steve Jobs had to go through in a certain order, because remember, the phone was yet to be released, and it was a prototype that he had. He pulled out of his pocket, and he had like 3 or 4 extras in case it broke. And he had to do it in certain order, and I forget what the order was, but he did Safari, then he made phone calls, then he did calendar, and had to go in a certain order or the phone was likely to crash. So each developer within Apple that made Safari or made the calendar, as soon as his thing was done, one guy had a flask and the calendar app worked. So that guy took a hit from the flask, and then all of a sudden Safari was up. Well, Safari worked. So they passed the flask to that guy, and he took a shot of the flask as they went through, and all of them. And it was a very successful demo, and it worked. And I remember in the demo, he used the maps and it located Starbucks, and he clicked call Starbucks, and he ordered 4,000 lattes. And this was, the person on the other line was a little shocked, and then he said, "No, I'm just kidding." So it's a great presentation. Get a chance, watch that. So then going forward, this is the current offering of phones. And there's many more phones than this, but the main phone's the iPhone SE, which is an incredible value at $399. That was introduced more recently, where the iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max were introduced in September of last year. So, but they all have the same chip. They have similar storage. They all start with 64 gigabytes of storage. You can see the display size there. The SE is still Touch ID, and the iPhone 11 Pros are Face ID. The camera is still the same, except you'll notice one only has one camera or lens, and the Pros have 3. So you have a 0.5 ultra wide angle, you have a 1x wide angle, and you'll have a 2x, which is twice the length. Indications are the new iPhone will have a 4th little camera type thing, and it will be LiDAR, which is like radar, but it uses light. It's a laser light, and LiDAR bounces things back, so it will be able to do measurements, but the whole idea is it may do augmented reality or 3D motion, 3D mapping of things. So that'll be the quote 4th camera, because it really is a camera. So they all of these models now can be charged wirelessly. So you just get a wireless pad. I have a little easel stand that I just set mine on, and they have the lightning charger. It's my understanding that they're saying that the new iPhones won't come with a charging cable or charging brick, because we all have those. I don't know how true that is. So we'll see what happens. So that's the current offering on the phones. Obviously, the phone will be called we think it'll be called the iPhone 12 Pro and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. And we think the size will be upped a little bit on both of those. Regarding plans, I actually got this in the mail just the other day, and I'm a huge T-Mobile fan. I think T-Mobile does a great job, but this Consumer Cellular is the highest rated. This is the AARP offer, and Consumer Cellular is the highest rated as far as customer service. And Consumer Cellular primarily uses the AT&T. Depending on what chip they send you, you'll either be using AT&T or you'll be using T-Mobile. So if you're a heavy data user, this isn't probably the plan for you. But if you're not using a lot of data, Consumer Cellular is one to consider. And I'm going to go and show you another one that I really is, let's see here, where was it? Oh yeah, to check plans, I recommend going to Clark Howard's site, clark.com, and you can, it will show you what sites are what carriers are the best. But one that I like to mention is, let me pull it up here, is T-Mobile owns Metro PCS, and they have some plans starting at some very, very low rates too. And it's using the same T-Mobile towers. If you travel internationally, you don't get the same benefits you do, but you will get 5G on that, and they're not charging any more for it. So Metro, it's Metro Byte Mobile, hang on here. Yeah, they're calling it that, Metro by T. It used to be Metro PCS. So this would be a time if anybody has any questions on carriers, go ahead and raise your hand and or just unmute yourself, and I'll go back to Clark Howard's plans here. So I'll just play it. Matthew, go ahead.
So, talking about plans, T-Mobile has, and I just did this for $25 for 4 lines, unlimited data on every line. And they sent me an iPhone SE for half price.
Yeah, well, and that brings up a great point. And Matthew, yeah, I'm a huge fan of T-Mobile. That T-Mobile plan, the $25 for those lines, and it is unlimited. And what they say by that is it's totally unlimited, but after 25 gigabytes a month, if it's a congested area, they may slow you down a little bit. So T-Mobile is wonderful. I use T-Mobile because I travel internationally. It allows me to do I can go to 210 different countries and do that. But the other part about, they gave them a really good deal on the phone. So you're going to get that from the main carriers. You're not necessarily going to get that from the consumer cellulars or Metro by T. You will get some consideration on it. But the time to change, if you need a new phone, you need to look at your carrier. You can get T-Mobile currently, I think, is offering as much as $700 back, but that's done over bill credits. I know somebody that turned in a iPhone 7, I think it was, and they get $700 of bill credits spaced out over 2 years towards the new phone. So yeah, the half price. Now, we don't know what they're going to offer during the when the new phones come out, but we'll see. It's hard to tell. It probably will be a little tighter. So, here somebody sent a message. Is with consumer cellular, the unlimited plan is $19 a month of shared data. Okay, so that's good. I mean, there's some good choices out there, and if you have not shopped a plan in a long time, you should definitely shop your plan, because it's time. You will get a really good plan for a lot less money than what you have. But remember, if you're thinking about a new phone, also look at other carriers. I have to say the number 2 rated cell phone company for service is T-Mobile. AT&T and Verizon are way down the list on customer service. So, and if you're a Comcast Xfinity customer, Comcast Xfinity has a pretty good plan, and what they try to use is using all the backbone of all the Wi-Fi signals around there, and they have some pretty compelling plans. But I think a lot of it, what you have to do is look at, if you're gonna get a deal on a phone, put that into the consideration of the pricing that you're doing. I can't speak highly enough to T-Mobile, and everybody that I've recommended to T-Mobile, with one exception out of probably 100 people that have gone over to T-Mobile, have liked it. So.
And I have 2 questions about consumer cellular. One is
Okay,
how.
Go ahead.
I have 2 questions about consumer cellular. One is, how hard is it to get an unlocked phone so that you can go to consumer cellular? And second, does AT&T slow down the service at all for consumer cellular, or do you get everything that you would with AT&T?
I don't think they slow it down. I just think you don't get some of the features, so to speak. But the nice thing is you're getting really good customer service. So as far as unlocked phones, if you buy a phone from Apple, it will be unlocked. The carriers do not have contracts anymore, but what they do is they can lock a phone and try to keep you in for a while. So it's hard to tell. So the best thing to do is check the internet and then call the carriers and see what they're offering. So, and then Barbara, was that you, Barbara?
Yes. What?
Okay, Barbara Moore. Okay,
Yes.
I'll mute you and lower your hand. Anybody else have any questions on carriers? This would be the time.
Cynthia.
I'm sorry?
Cynthia has a question. It's in the
Okay.
chat.
Are bundled packages generally better than individual services? Yeah, good question. They are changing that a bit. The AT&T used to keep cellular completely separate from it. I think you just have to, I don't know, and that's changing. One thing I wouldn't do right now is sign contracts with anybody, because with 5G coming and everything else, the downward trend in pricing has been very dramatic. And so I think you're going to see more and more of that. And if you're locked into a multi-year contract, that would be not good. Any other questions? Okay, one sec here. All right. Okay, next slide.
Hey, Ken,
Yeah, go ahead, Dennis.
I have a question. Does the, looking at different, we just moved to AT&T at your recommendation and we like it.
No, you moved to T-Mobile.
Excuse me, T-Mobile from AT&T. Does make any difference on looking at plans when we do a phone trade-in every year, go to a newer phone? For cost and things like that?
Well, so yeah, so it brings up a point. So, it used to be when we were under contract, it was 2 years was kind of the life cycle of a phone. Well, the average life cycle of a phone has increased a little bit, and it's amazing because Apple still sells a ton of them. But there's I would say it's between 2 and 3 years now is the typical life cycle of a phone. Because what happens is it's twofold. After 2 years, your battery starts to degrade, so you don't get as much charged life out of it. But secondly, the trade-in value of your phone goes down. So you really need to look at that. I'm on Apple's what they call upgrade program. It's kind of like leasing the phone. So I pay every month, I pay 1/24th of what the phone cost. And I hate leases. I'd rather own it, but it works out very well because at the end of a year, I simply trade that phone in. So I've only paid for half the phone, and then I continue to pay for the next one. Now, it's a great sacrifice that I upgrade my phone every year, but I do it for you guys so that I can, display these things. And it's only for you guys that I would do that. Mm-hmm.
We're on that plan too. So yes, we're doing
Yeah, if you're on the Apple upgrade plan, you do that. And that's because I look at it like after 1 year, phone might be worth half. In fact, I have someone that might be interested in my phone, and I would just sell it for exactly the half price rather than turn it in. I can do it for that. But, it's sad that it degrades that much. But, we have the iPhone 6S is still kind of works, and the 7 works well. So, there's lots of years out of the phone if you want to, but I think at some point you're, especially for me, as the cameras get better, it's a big deal to me. And I probably spend less on that phone than I would for a big DSLR or something like that. So
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, we're waiting for the 12, my wife and I.
yeah, I think the time, unless it's a killer deal or you really, really have a need, wait for the new ones because the current phones will drop by $100 and there'll be deals on them. So, Mary, thank you, Dennis. Mary, go ahead.
Yeah, just a caution. I don't know if it's changed, but at a certain point, I thought I was buying an iPad from Sprint, but at the end of 24 months, they kept taking the money out. And when I tried to turn it in, they wouldn't take it unless I paid like $60 or something. So I don't know if that's changed, but just be cautious. That's all.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So, we don't like the fine print, but I know that some friends had that. They my friends that live in Columbia, they have Sprint, and she had more than paid off her phone, and they continued to do it on a monthly fee on that. Well, Sprint's part of T-Mobile now, so I think that will happen less. But yeah, keep an eye and see what it is, and ask those questions ahead of time. And don't believe the salesperson because they're just trying to get you sold. And there needs to be better transparency on that. So sorry that happened to you. Was that a cellular iPad? Mary?
I think I'm trying to remember. Yes, I think it was.
Yeah, if you bought it from the carrier,
that, though,
if you bought it from the carrier, it's probably a cellular iPad.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone else had something there? Go ahead. No, guess not. All right. So, smartphones have created other things you have to watch out for. So this guy on the bottom here is pretty interesting that he fell asleep with his phone like that and somebody photographed it. I have a feeling this was kind of staged, but who knows? But then this one up here, I love this comic. This is people holding their smartphones and what happens with that. So be careful. And we have, of course, a new paradigm now. We have other sunburns we have to worry about because of COVID. So, all right. So those of you that weren't in the meeting, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through this, and I'm going to go through it slow. And then if you can't get this to work for you, hang around at the end of the meeting. But I'm going to go through so that everybody will be able to do this. And what we have are 3 ways to really dig down deep and get to know how to use your iPhone, and the same applies to an iPad. I encourage you to take a picture of the screen, because this link here, this EDU GCF Global, is a wonderful site. But if you just go, it's hard to find the iPhone Basics site if you just go to their regular one. So I'm going to show you how to create a thing on your home screen that is an interactive guide to your phone. So everybody pick up your phone and unlock it. And we're going to go to Safari. So in Safari, I want you to tap at the very top. And right there at the very top, it's already highlighted. You just start typing help, HELP Apple, APPLE.com. I'll wait for everybody to catch up. I want you to be at help.apple.com, and then you need to hit the number keypad so you can get changed over to that. And we put a slash and a forward slash. Apple.com, help.apple.com slash, and then if you're on an iPad, type iPad. If you're on an iPhone, go back and lowercase, just type iPhone. Okay, I'm going to pause here a minute because I want everybody to be here. You've gone to Safari. You've typed in exactly like it says, help.apple.com/iPhone. You don't worry about that little slash at the end. It'll look just like this. So help.apple.com. And then once you have that, in the lower right, tap go. So now you're on this iPhone user guide. Don't touch anything here because I want you to be on this main page. So you'll notice at the bottom, there's, in my case, it's black, and yours it might be white. There's some little icons down there. Now, if I scroll, the icons go away. But when I come back and scroll down, the icons show up. So I want you to make sure your tray of icons show up. And you have to actually pull down, and then it comes up, okay? Again, make sure your tray of icons are showing up. Then at this point, we're going to click the one in the middle that is a box with an arrow coming out of it, and that's the share screen. So if you tap the share screen, you should get this. Now, if I scroll down on this share screen, or excuse me, I scroll it up, but I'm going down the screen. Right in the middle there, you see one that says Add to Home Screen. So again, I'm going to go back through that. I'm in this screen where it is here. I hold down, and the little share box comes up right in the center. I tap it, and now I scroll down, and where it says Add to Home Screen, just hit the plus sign. I'm sorry, the Add to Home Screen sign, and you should get this. Now, if you're not getting this at this point, we can do. I'll be happy to help everybody at the end. But what I like to do is hit the little delete key. Right above the word done is the backward space key. And I want to eliminate Apple support. I just want this to say iPhone user guide. Once you have that, go ahead and hit add in the upper right. And when you do that, you should magically have, like I have in the lower right corner of my phone here, the iPhone user guide. Okay? So the iPhone user guide I have up there. So now you have that. That's essentially a Safari bookmark. So if you have that, just tap the Apple logo and it'll take you where you were. And no, I don't want to do part of this survey, so I'll tap that. Now, The interesting thing about this, in the fall, or in October, well, September probably, iOS 14 will come out. This detects whether you're running iOS 12, iOS 13, or iOS 14, and the user guide will be appropriate to whichever operating system you're using. So you won't need to change this when a new operating system comes out. So if I go down here, I can search for what I want to search by, or I tap table of contents and everything's here. I'll tap iPhone user guide. Boom. Comes on down, say hello, one camera. So I can hit my little Safari back arrow and it takes me, oops. Let's see, table of contents again. I accidentally didn't do that. So let's see, I want to go, let's do this. I'm going to do a search for buttons. B-U-T-T-O-N, search. There's to do all adjust buttons and do different things like that. So then I can go back to the table of contents again. You how to use Siri, family sharing. All these things are all right there. So again, anybody that didn't have that, wasn't able to get that, stick around at the end and I will go through it till everyone has gotten it. So let me go back to the keynote presentation. Now, you'll see that that was what we used, is help.apple.com/iPhone. And if you're on an iPad, you're going to use the iPad user guide. Also, this link that I put up here, GFCG Global, is fantastic. It goes through, they have a bunch of tutorials on there, and I just happened to find this. I was just in a Google search and I found it very useful. But the other one you can do is this iPhone user guide. So how we get to there is, I go in, you should have on your iPhone, and here's how we search my apps. So if you look at my phone here, I take and I swipe down from the center and I get this search window. So in this search window, I'm going to type books and you'll see that books comes up. So I'm going to tap books. Now, in the lower right of books, I'm going to hit search. And I'm just going to type in iPhone user guide. Now, I'm not going to choose anything down below. I'm going to hit the search button because I want it to search all iPhone user guide. I don't want to search a specific one. So when I hit search, you'll notice that, oh, it says in my library, but here's the store. And you'll notice that it says there that the iPhone user guide on the left side, it's from Apple, and we know it's free, and it uses the current version, which is iPhone 13.6, and actually 13.7 got released just recently. No real big changes. But if you go here, you would click on this, and then you can download it if you want, hit read, do whatever. It's totally free. And this works, the iPhone user guide I showed you that's in Safari, you need an internet connection. This, once it's downloaded to your phone, you can read it as much as you want because it's downloaded to your phone. If you're stuck on a plane or somewhere where you don't have internet connection, you can read it through that. But that iPhone user guide, and obviously it will get updated when we go to iOS 14. So again, that's our choices right there, is help.apple.com/iPhone, the user guide, and GCF Global. I don't know why I always say GFC. All right, going on from there, we're going to talk briefly about the buttons around the phone. This is an old 6, but it kind of holds true. So starting in the upper left, the front microphone, it's actually a speaker is what it is. They've changed this a bit because there used to be a little microphone on the front of the phone, but there's not. You can hear up there. There's also for FaceTime or for Face ID, there's infrared sensors and all that stuff up in the notch. But there's a little slit, and that's what you hear. In fact, I have people when they get a brand new phone, sometimes it has the plastic covering on it, and they want to leave the plastic covering on, and they say, well, I can't hear anybody talking. Well, It's because that plastic covering is covering that very small little area. So that's right in front, and that's the thing. On a Face ID phone, you have other things. Your front-facing camera is there also. They call it the FaceTime camera. It's also the selfie camera. So coming down the left side is your ring silent switch. The ring silent switch is, it's so you can mute the phone or make it silent. But remember, if you have an alarm set or a timer, even though it's on silent, it will still ring. But you won't get any notifications of mail or of text or phone calls because you have it on silent. So it's a way to keep it around so you're not interrupting people. And when it's flipped to the back, it displays a little bit of an orange stripe on it. That orange stripe is a visible way to tell that it's switched to silent. Then right below that are the volume up and volume down buttons. I will point out that the volume up button, if you're in camera mode and you tap the volume up button, it will actually trigger the shutter on the camera. So coming down from there, just app icons. I mean, those are just apps along there, just showing you the screen. Multi-touch display. And now this is one thing that really made the iPhone phenomenal. A few months, well, actually quite a few months, about a year before the iPhone was released, Apple acquired this company called Fingerworks. And Fingerworks, you know, before that, we used to have this stylus and a touch screen. Not that you tap it like you do the soft ones now. You used to have to put pressure on the display to select things or draw things and do that. Well, the capacitive discharge is what the screen uses. And this company called Fingerworks was able to develop a multi-touch display. So believe it or not, on an iPad, if I have my fingers like this and I pull them in like that, it'll take me to the home screen. It senses I have 5 fingers on it. There's many things on the phone that it senses whether you're using 2 fingers or 1 finger, and it will treat it differently. And it could, in fact, detect all 5 fingers. It's just a little bit space constrained when it's on the iPhone. So that's the touch, the multi-touch display, and it's actually a layer over the LCD screen. And that's why you don't want those little plastic. The other thing is you don't want a plastic screen protector. You want a case hardened, they call them tempered glass 9H screen protector, because your touch goes right through. So some of the phones still have headphone jacks, not many do. Most of them use the Lightning port. But if we go to the bottom of the phone, that's where the microphone used to be. And believe it or not, they moved it down there because when people were talking on the phone, if the headphone jack used to come out the top. But what would happen is if you were speaking on the phone in the rain, a drop could go down in the headphone jack hole. So they moved it to the bottom. And then right next to it, it looks like a speaker, but on the bottom left side, that is actually a microphone. And I will point out, well, actually, I'll go to that in a second. Then you have the Lightning connector, which I'll talk about in a second too. And then the right-hand side is the speaker. And that's the speaker, not the one that you pulled up to your ear. That's the one for speakerphone, for music, etc. A little trick, if you're ever on a phone and you put it up to your ear, it has a proximity sensor, and it knows when it gets close to your skin, and it will turn the light off on the phone, which maintains your battery. And this is since the very first iPhone. It will turn the screen off, and that will save battery because your display's not on. But secondly, it makes it so your cheek doesn't inadvertently launch an app or do things like that. So there's a proximity sensor at the top. Coming up from that, if you have a Touch ID phone, that's the home button. And obviously it's got the fingerprint reader in it. Those of you with Face ID do not have that. You use Face ID. The SIM tray is right on the right-hand side there. That's how you can change carriers. Some of the new phones, like the iPhone 11 Pro, allows you to have a physical SIM card, and then there's an internal SIM card. So you could have a work and home phone number on the same phone, or if you travel, you could have a US and a European SIM in there if you wanted. The sleep wake button, a lot of people call it the power button, but that's If you don't have a home button on your phone, you can use that to initiate Siri. Whereas on the bottom one, if you press and hold the home button at the bottom, it initiates Siri. But the sleep wake button just turns the screen on and off. And then up from that, I call it the status bar. That's just basically what's going on. Your battery strength, your signal strength, whether Wi-Fi's on, etc. So the back of the phone is the regular back camera. And the back camera is always a better camera than the front camera. So, and you can have multiple cameras there. What's called a true tone flash. There are actually 2 different colors on that flash, and the phone senses what kind of lighting you're in. If you're in a fluorescent environment, in an office building or in a house where there's fluorescent overhead, that color is different, so it's going to adjust the flash accordingly. That's the true tone flash. And that little hole right on by the camera in the back is a microphone. And that microphone works this way. If I hold my phone up to my head and I'm in an airplane or in an arena where there's tons of people shouting and screaming and everything, well, the microphone on the bottom of the phone and the microphone on the back of the phone are listening to the ambient noise, whether it's the hiss of a jet going by, whether it's the waves breaking on the coast, whether it's a real loud stadium. Both microphones are sensing that, but only the bottom microphone is what I'm speaking into when I'm holding my phone to my ear. So therefore, the 2 microphones say, well, I hear the voice on this one and that's it, but all the rest is just static. So that's an ambient noise sensor, and what it does is it does complete noise canceling. So it works very well. That's why the phone works so well in a very noisy environment. So moving on from that, going down to the lightning port on the bottom, this is called a lightning connector. And I get often calls about, Ken, my phone won't charge. Well, first thing I do is I make sure that they've got a working charger or try it in an iPad, make sure the cable and the charger are good. And they usually are. And I really encourage you to use Apple certified chargers and cables, because you don't realize how much power are in these, and you're charging these at night next to you in your bed, and you really, really don't want them to catch fire. But the other thing that happens is, if it won't charge, the majority of the time, there's a bunch of lint in this hole. So you take a wooden toothpick or a piece of plastic, don't use anything metal, and you go in there and you pull out that lint. And compressed air doesn't do too good a job because it really doesn't evacuate it. But I would just go in with you can use the plastic toothpick that's on a Swiss Army knife, or you can use a wood toothpick, don't break off the tip, and just go in there and clean it out. And you'd be surprised, because being in a pocket or a purse or in a jacket pocket, you will get a lot of lint in there. And that's usually the most common charge failure problem. And again, as I'm going through this, please feel free to either raise your hand on the participant screen or on an iPad or iPhone. You can hit the 3 dots and say raise hand. Mary, you have a question.
Yeah, what about using a very weak vacuum stream on it? Is that dangerous?
Yeah, but what's interesting about that is, just like blowing air on something, a vacuum has to be able to pull air from around, and that it will be difficult in there. Your best is using just something like that. And then once I get the majority, because it's a clump of lint usually, once I get that out, then I'll blow in there a little bit. But that, if you blow in or if you try to suck it out, air has to be able to transit somewhere. And it's like trying to suck on a straw, but shutting it with your teeth. You can't suck on that straw because it's blocked off. Well, a vacuum won't be able to pull anything past because of that.
Okay, thanks. Good to know.
Yeah.
Like canned air.
Canned air is kind of the same situation. So it's the opposite of a vacuum. At being a sailor for a lot of my life, wind is sucked. It's pushed. It has to go somewhere. So the canned air, it kind of just fills the area with air, and it doesn't necessarily get it out. It has to be able to evacuate somewhere, and you're doing it in a tube. It might help, but I would only do it after you've gotten the big clumps out. It can't hurt. It's not going to hurt anything, so try it. but I have not had success with it. So, all right. So just to kind of give you a difference between Face ID and Touch ID, more and more of the phones are becoming Face ID because you can see you get much more usable screen space. Otherwise, you have these big bezels on there. We think at some point the Face ID phone will have a fingerprint reader underneath it. I really did not like the Face ID phone when the iPhone 10 first came out. I just really loved the fingerprint reader, but I've adapted to it now, and I'm all in on Face ID, but I still think Touch ID is quite good. I think the only thing is when you pay with Apple Pay on the Face ID phone, clicking the home button twice is kind of clunky compared to being able to use your other. A little thing Apple instituted, because a lot of us are wearing masks when we're outdoor or in public areas. They made it now so if it tries to do Face ID, it'll immediately go to putting in your passcode if it senses you're wearing a mask, and it will sense that because it uses 250 points on your face, and they want to keep that secure. So if you're on a mask, the first time you try it, it will automatically go to putting in your passcode. On Touch ID, and actually your face, you can have it relearn your face. So some people have problem with Touch ID. Excuse me. I recommend if it's worked and then it stops working, you immediately go into settings and go to Touch ID, and don't delete the old one, but add a new finger that's the same finger, because the amount of water in our body will change how your fingerprint looks to the fingerprint ID. So you could put your finger in up to 5 times on there, and that will help it so that in different states, your fingerprint will work. And then the other thing is you can go into Touch ID, and if you go into the Touch ID and continually just keep using your phone while you're in that, putting your thumb on the fingerprint reader just slightly, or your finger on the fingerprint reader, what will happen is every time it goes gray, it's learning more of your fingerprint. Ray Chastain, you have a question, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was on Thursday. My Face ID quit working, so I went into, I had to set it up again. But I was just curious as to why it would suddenly be erased.
That's interesting. It just stopped working, or in fact, it was missing?
It apparently was missing. I had to, when I went in, and then it was blank, so I had to do the double face, circular thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It could have been some sort of reset or something, but luckily it's not too difficult. So
I was wondering if the iOS updated overnight and
it shouldn't do that, but it's not. It could have. I could blame it on that, but I don't know. It's just a weird anomaly. Hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. At the same time, my wife, when she went into the Apple store to get an app, it wanted a fingerprint, but she hadn't set it up with that, and so she couldn't use it. It was weird.
Yeah, no, you can use the passcode.
Yeah. Well, no, there was no place to click on it to bring up the passcode.
Yeah, what you do. So okay, so that brings up a point. So like, let's say you gave me your phone and I was trying to get in it. I would try my fingerprint on it, and after the second try of the fingerprint, it comes up and says use passcode.
Okay.
So even though it comes up with it, if it doesn't work, you can, and again, you don't click it, you just rest your finger on it. You do it twice, it fails twice, and then it comes up and says use passcode.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And Face ID is kind of the same thing. If it fails 2 or 3 times, it says use passcode. But what they've done now, if you're wearing a face mask, it will fail the first time, and then it will go right to asking for your passcode. And there is a way you can set your passcode to be 4 digits, I do that, but it's definitely 1/8 as secure as having 6 digits. So, all right. So we're going to talk about Apple Maps. There's 3 great mapping programs that we use on the phone. I use Waze when I'm traveling just because I can get really good traffic. I get traffic reports. It'll tell me where a cop is. I use Google Maps only because Apple Maps didn't used to be that good, but I hardly use Google Maps anymore. Apple Maps has improved dramatically. But we're going to do a live demo with Apple Maps. And basically in Apple Maps, I like it because I can use Siri. I can just say, give me directions to so-and-so, and it'll do it. So you'll notice these are the screens that you can see. And then the other advantage to Apple Maps is parked car. Now, I can't display this because I'm too close to my car. I know that when I do this at St. Mark's and my car is down in the parking lot, it'll show it. But if you have Bluetooth in your car, if you can get phone calls through your car speakers or play music through your car speakers, what happens is, and you don't have to turn anything on, it's enabled by default. I'll show you where to enable it if it's not. When you leave your car, in other words, when you get far enough from your car that the Bluetooth is no longer connected to your phone and you have your phone with you, your phone will say, oh, I know where his car is because this is where I lost connection. So it will always show you your parked car in Apple Maps. And this is very, very beneficial. You can even, in this case, the person was at the Tulane Medical Center, but their car was parked way over there. So they simply hit directions and it gives them walking directions to where their car is. This is very, very helpful. Now, I should note, let's say there's 2 of you and you both have keys to your car. If you park your car somewhere and you go off and then someone else takes your car, it will not update where your car is. It only knows where Bluetooth last connected your phone to your car. So if that car gets moved, it's not going to find it for you. Okay? So it is static in that regard. So here's how you can make sure it's enabled. You can go into settings, and I encourage you to all check this because if you don't have Bluetooth in your car, this will not work. So go to settings, maps, and then there's a slider for show parked location, and you want to turn that on. So again, setting maps, show parked location, turn it on. Any questions on that and maps? And I'm going to do a live demo on maps here when I get out of the slide. In fact, let's go ahead and do it now. So I'm going to go into Apple Maps and I'm going to show you, actually, so you'll notice here on my calendar, I have a Siri suggestion. So it says from my house, it's 31 minutes to the MacNexus triage classes, which of course is the workshop at St. Mark's. And that's on there already. The home and the work, different places, recently viewed, etc. You do notice in the lower right corner is the air quality index. Ours is pretty high up here today, which is interesting because it doesn't look as smoky, but it's at 154. No matter where you are, it will show that. It always shows where you're located. So the Siri suggested, again, that's an appointment in my calendar. And in that appointment in my calendar, I have put the location is why that shows up there. But I'm going to go and just tap in Sacramento International Airport, or SMF, okay? And I'm going to say, let's say Terminal A. So I'm going to tap that. So from my house to Terminal A, and you'll notice it even shows all the restaurants that are over at Terminal A. It shows directions. And then it shows I can call it. I can add it. I can share it. There's our little share box again. That's the box with the arrow coming out of it. I could text that to somebody. Here's the address down below, the phone number, their website, and then these are the Yelp reviews. And then it says similar places nearby. So I can actually, from this screen, also add it to my contacts if I wanted, or add it to favorites. Report an issue. I actually had to do this one time because there's a dirt road out by Mather Air Force Base, the backside of Mather Air Force Base. It's a regular road, and Google Maps and Apple Maps try to direct people to Grant Line Road along this road. Well, once you go down that road a ways, all of a sudden the pavement ends and it's like a four-wheel drive Jeep trail. And I used to take and did sunset photographs out there, and sure enough, people are coming along flying at 60 miles an hour, and they don't see the sign that says pavement ends 200 feet ahead, and these cars get air as they go across the first few bumps. So I submitted an issue with it, and finally Apple Maps changed it, as did Google Maps. But now when I tap directions, it knows my location, and you'll see from my house, it gives me, and it almost always gives you, as long as you're a little ways away, 3 routes to wherever you want to go. So I like going the back way that is 39 minutes, but it's faster to go, and it's using current traffic, but it's faster to go the 35-minute way. But like on the weekends, or on the weekend evenings, Friday and Saturday evenings, and on Sundays, I won't take that back road because I don't like driving on 2-lane roads when there's people that might have been out partying. So I would take the freeway. But you have your choices. You tap on each one, and it will change whichever route. And then you tap the directions and say go. So when I tap go, it comes up.
Starting route to Terminal A. Head southeast on Briarcliff Lane, then turn right onto Parkside Drive.
So it gives you turn-by-turn directions. And as you approach each turn, it will talk to you. If you have an Apple Watch, it will vibrate on your wrist and tell you to turn by the vibration. And believe it or not, there's a different vibration for a left turn than a right turn. So, and I find that the reason on the watch is really neat, and the fact that it's voice directions. I have my phone mounted right next to my steering wheel, but with voice directions, you could keep it in your purse, or in your console, or in your pocket, so it can get lint in it. So now it shows at the bottom, my arrival time from here would be 11:16, take me 34 minutes, and it's 35.3 miles. So I guess I can go over the speed limit a little bit, or at the speed limit. It's moving around because my phone is moving a little bit. So the thing is, though, if you stop at a convenience store to get some water, or you stop to get gas or something like that, you probably don't want to leave this in your pocket running, because it's gonna,
in 700 feet, turn right onto
it's
Parkside
gonna do
Drive.
like that. I didn't move. I'm still sitting in front of my computer, but it's gonna say, make a U-turn when you can. Actually, that's new. You notice it even shows a stop sign there now. So what I would do is, if I'm pulling into a place and I want to just pause it, there is no pause button. In fact, my watch just told me I have a right coming up. So if I tap end, it really is just a pause. So right now, it will pause and not give me any directions as I'm walking along through the aisles of the convenience store. And then at that point, as you can see on the bottom, I can either resume or end the route. So if I end the route, that's good. Now, automatically, when you get to that location, and we were Terminal A, when I turn into Terminal A, it will end it anyway. It won't continue to navigate once you arrive at that location. But I'm going to show you the easiest way to do it when I use, okay, Barbara, you have a question?
Yes, I'm wondering how you report an issue to Apple, a road issue.
It's on the very bottom here, report an issue. On that same screen.
I see it, thank you.
Uh-huh. And I think Google is the same with theirs. Okay, So I'm going to now use Siri to do the same thing. And I'm going to not say the word hey and the word Siri. I'm going to use the sleep wake button on the side to activate it. Give me directions to Terminal A, Sacramento International Airport.
Getting directions to Terminal A.
So it's doing all this. I'm not touching anything. I could have done this hands-free. And you'll notice it gives me the fastest route.
Starting route to Terminal A. Head southwest on Stonecrest Lane.
Yeah, it actually thinks I'm a little bit not where I am. It's because I'm on the back side of my house. I'm actually closer to that street, I guess. Anyway, it picks the fastest route. It doesn't give you those three choices. So, but the nice thing is, let's say you did want to take a different choice. Obviously, as you go along, you can do it yourself. If I hit end and then end route, I can go down here to my recent, oops, get rid of that. I can see in my recently viewed ones, if I tap recently viewed Terminal A and tap directions, it'll give me my 3 routes at that point. And I like to have alternate routes because there's just certain times you don't want to do different things. So, by the way, you'll notice at the bottom, you can drive, walk, get transit, or get a ride service. So to walk to Sacramento International Airport, obviously we can't go down a freeway. And at typical walking speed, it looks like it'd take 11 hours and 51 minutes. Probably a little longer than that if you're pulling luggage behind you. Transit, now it says, I don't have transit right in front of my house, but it will give me transit directions. And if I tap on the transit direction, it gives me the whole directions, and then it tells me what the schedules are for those. I'll hit done. And then the last one is ride. So it says this is a ride hailing service. Uber, it would be $39 is what it looks like in a 12-minute wait. So I don't even have to go into the Uber app. And from this, I could go ahead and hit next and continue, and it would give me the ride hailing service like that. So the other thing about the parked car, again, if you have Bluetooth, it will connect to it. The other thing that kind of ties into maps is a business search, more or less. So I'm going to say, find the closest sushi restaurant.
Okay, here's what I found.
So you can see that the closest sushi restaurant is 0.7 miles away. And it's for 4 Yelp stars. So at this point, I could direct to it and I'll tap it. It'll take me into all the information. But I said the closest. So let's do this one step further and say, find the best sushi restaurant nearby.
Okay, check it out.
So that's noted by their 5 stars, and that's their Yelp rating. So that's, and you just simply tap that, and it goes in and it puts it up on the map, gives you the information, gives you the hours, etc. So just to show you a couple little differences, since we're going to go more in depth, I'm going to show you, and that was called Roll and Go Sushi. So now I'm going to go to Google Maps, and I'm going to say Roll and Go Sushi. There it is. So I'll tap that here. Oops. I was still speaking. So now this is Google Maps version of it, but it gives me a little more information. You know, it says dine in, take out, or delivery, directions, start, call, save, share, or go to the website. But if I scroll up, I get, again, more information. Open soon, their phone number, how to place an order, menu. And then this is just Google reviews, which is different than Yelp. They're both very good. Sometimes if I'm looking for a place, I'll look for both. And then obviously it does the same thing. If I tap directions, it knows where I am. And it only gave me one route, which is interesting. Oh, no, it's not back. So that's interesting that it only gave me one. It usually will give you about 3, but from here it looks like that's most straightforward. You tap steps and you get all of that. Back to map. Okay, again, they have the same thing. They have transit, they have bike, they have ride service, and the best one that I like, they actually have bike, how to do it on a bike. So that works out too. And how to fly, well, we wouldn't fly there. So that's Google Maps. And then the last one is Waze. And I will say, come on. Rock and, come on. Rock and roll sushi and bento.
Roll and Go Sushi Roll and Bento is on 5484 Dewey Drive, number 210 in Fair Oaks. It's 13.1 miles away and is rated 4.8 stars. A lot of places have changed their hours and services temporarily, so you might want to check with them.
Well, I guess. Navigate to Roll and Go Sushi.
Okay, Roll and Go Sushi Roll and Bento.
See, I forgot to say navigate. So now it'll do it. And the nice thing about Waze, this is very helpful. Let's say you're driving to the Bay Area and traffic's an issue. You can go down here and I can say view more times. So I can say, well, no, I'm going to go tomorrow, or I'll leave Monday, and I'm going to go at, here, as you'll notice, look at the traffic here. Obviously at 8:30 a.m. on Monday, then all of a sudden there's a little more traffic at 9:15. Boom. Let's pick somewhere in the Bay Area. Let's go back. Let's go to SFO. We're going to go to San Francisco, and shows you where to park. This is again Waze, which I really, W-A-Z-E, it's just the best. So I'm going to actually go back to that. SFO. So then you'll notice in the bottom there it says go later. So I'm going to tap go later. And I can do my arrival time. So I can say, well, I'm going to be flying out Tuesday and I want to arrive at, and this is using traffic history. So let's say I'm going to need to arrive by 10 a.m. It means from my house, it's going to be, I have to leave at 8:12 a.m. to get there at that time. And this obviously it can't forecast perfectly, but it knows historically what it is. And if you'll notice on the side there, you can see how traffic, of course, will affect it more in the afternoon. That's what that red on the side is, and then how much different it is. This is a fantastic feature, and I love Waze because it will tell me if there's potholes in the road. It'll tell me if there's traffic is stopped ahead. It will replan your route for you. It's fantastic. Mary, you have a question.
Yeah, I sometimes want to just see where some place, like a city is. And it always, on my phone, it always takes up a lot of space with the directions or something. So say you just wanted to see.
There's direction mode and there's non-direction mode.
How do you get the non-direction mode?
On what, Apple Maps?
Yep.
Okay, so let's go back to Apple Maps. So if I just hit the X out of it and slide that down, now I can move my map anywhere.
Can you do that again, please?
Sure. So I'll quit it and come back to it because this is the screen. So it comes up, you'll see there's a line right above the search window. That means I can pull that down and get it out of the way.
Okay, great.
And then what I can do is, let's say I want to go here and I want to say, look at Salt Lake City. So I'm going to double tap. I can pinch to zoom in and zoom out, or I can double tap to zoom in. So I'm going to go, let's see, here's Park City. I'll hopefully be there in February. So I zoom in and that's it. And I can spin it around, do whatever I want. But if I'm like this, you'll notice that little called a compass rose shows up. If I tap that, it centers it to north. Again, if I spin this, if I tap that, it shows me that I'm looking south right now. So if I tap that, it'll come to it. And then the little information eye at the top, if I tap that, I can show satellite view. Let me get my screen a little brighter. So that's satellite view. And if we do this, map view, it's showing, I'm in dark mode on my phone. Normally this would be lighter. Oh, and you'll notice that their air quality index there is 66 in Park City. So again, you hit that eye. You can also show you transit directions or satellite. But I'm going to go back to map and hit the X to get rid of that. Oh, and when you're in that mode, the traffic slider, you want traffic to be on all the time so you can see what's up. The other thing here is you'll notice the little, they call that a compass rose, that little arrow. If I tap that arrow, it will take me to where I am. So we're in Park City, we're looking at Park City. Don't tap that arrow if you want to continue to be looking at Park City, because if I tap that arrow, it takes me right back to where I am. Now, if I tap that arrow one more time, oh, I have some navigation going here. Let me quit Waze. Okay, if I tap that arrow one more time, it will actually, as I move my phone, I'm pointing my phone in different directions and it's pointing which way it is. So you'll notice the arrow is pointing up and it has that little line and you have that little blue part emanating out from wherever I'm going. If I tap the thing again, it is now north oriented. If I tap it one more time, it zooms out and then I tap it again and it gives me an actual being able to rotate. Okay. Mary, that answer for you?
Oops.
Okay.
Yes, it did. Thanks.
You bet.
Is it the same on the computer? I was just going to look.
You can't spin your computer. Now,
No, I'm sorry about the.
Actually, your computer does have a GPS in it, so it won't. But yeah, virtually everything is the same in the computer, with the exception of the orientation. In the computer, it's usually, you can spin on the computer, but with your trackpad, but it's generally a north orientation. But yes, it is the same.
Well, what I meant was, can you eliminate the direction?
Yes, you just, if you've done directions, because it doesn't come up automatically until you direct yourself to a place. And then when it's done, you can tap where it's blue for directions, tap that off, and that will get you out of it.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Rich, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, I was back at the sushi restaurant. Did it designate best because it was the one that was open?
No. It was best based on Yelp reviews.
Okay.
So when I said, give me the nearest sushi restaurant, that was obviously based on location. Then I said, give me the best sushi restaurant nearby. And it was from my house, it was 20 something miles away. So, I don't know what the parameter it is for that, but that's, yeah, it's there. Also, when you're in navigation, you can always say things like, navigate to the closest gas station, and it'll add it to your route. So one thing I like about Google Maps, in fact, you can't do this on Apple Maps, but if I go to Google Maps, this is really important. So this is also nice. They have all this explore nearby and things at the bottom. I can swipe that down. But I'm going to say, let's go to, here we go. Let's say La Placita. So I'm going to go to La Placita restaurant. So now if I go and hit directions, I don't want to take my bike. I'm going to take a car. So I tap on that. Now you'll notice, first of all, I can reverse my direction if I wanted to do that by hitting the little arrows on the right-hand side. But if I tap the ellipsis, the three dots, I can add a stop. So at this point, I can say, let's go by the Apple Store at Roseville. So I want to do it before I go to La Placida. So what I do is I grab the little, oops. I grab the little, oh, I eliminated it. Hang on. Add stop, Apple Store. So now if I grab the little, the B for the Apple Roseville store, if I hit the B and slide it up, I can now sort how I want to do my different, my route. If I want to do the Apple store before I go to La Placida, and you'll see on the bottom, it shows you the route down there. So if you also too, this little diamond with the line under it shows you satellite view. So again, that's the satellite view. You know what? I have bike routes turned on. I think that's something, that's why those are showing up in bright green. And then I can also do terrain. And this is really nice if you're hiking, you can see there's the foothills around where by Rockland and things like that. So, and if you hit the back arrow, you have some other preferences. You can do traffic, location, all of that stuff. And by the way, you'll notice it somewhat like Waze. And by the way, Google owns Waze. It was an Israeli company, but it's owned by Google now. It shows you the traffic, what it expects now, and if traffic's later, et cetera. Plenty of parking. So again, I like to have all three loaded on my phone, and I use them for different things. Anyway, Cynthia, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, I'm in the Apple Maps one, and I have map settings, map checked, although it's showing satellite. And then somehow I got on flyover and then city tour. And
yeah, so that depends. In only certain cities, I'll go to Sacramento because I think I think Sacramento has a flyover.
I clicked on Vancouver, so.
Okay, so I'm gonna go. Oh, it's not north up. I'm gonna get north up. There we go. Stockton, Sacramento.
Did you click on satellite? Is that why you're seeing the satellite view?
Yes. So, because I'm going to show one other thing here that I know works too. So you'll notice if I zoom in, let's find the state capitol there. And if I tap the 3D, now I can look at these buildings in 3D. Now that doesn't work for every city, but you can really get a feel for it. And then I tap to go back to 2D, which is normally above. But the flyover, let me think. You know, I never use the flyover, and I don't know. Launch flyover mode in Apple Maps.
I don't know that I checked anything. It just suddenly appeared. Just a sec.
I think. And it may not have it for Sacramento. But flyover mode is more like a drone kind of look at everything. So you're in Vancouver, right?
Well, that's the city. That's the city I checked. Yeah, no, it was. It gives you a quick case of nausea.
So let's zoom out. Here's Vancouver. Huh. Yeah, I can't. Does anybody offhand know how to do flyover mode? Because I don't. I never use it. Oh, by the way, it shows the temperature there is 66 degrees right now. And that's definitely not Celsius, even though. Okay, I'll have to look up flyover mode, but anyway.
Are we talking Washington or British Columbia?
That was YVR. That was British Columbia. Were you in Vancouver, Washington, or Vancouver, Canada?
No, Canada.
Yeah, that YVR is what I put in. So that was Vancouver, Canada. All right, Barbara, you have a question?
Yeah, my question was, I remember reading, yeah, it's been quite a few months ago, that they had done an update to Waze and you couldn't really turn the setting off for it not to track your location. So let's say you set in a place you want to go to the airport or something, that it would still continue to track you as you went on about your business, even after you're out of the car. Do you know if that or any other tracking concerns still exist with Waze?
Are you concerned about being tracked?
Yeah, I just don't like the idea.
Turn your phone off and never use it. You're
Well,
being tracked all the time on your phone through the cell carrier.
even if you go into the settings.
If your phone is on,
yeah.
if your phone is on, you are constantly being tracked because that's how 911 can come find you. That's how they got that in, was to say, well, we need it for 911 service. But in fact, that's how they were able to arrest Scott Peterson for killing his wife. They were able to track his cell phone and find that he went to the Berkeley Marina and did all that. So if
So when
you're
you
worried
say
about that,
track, where
if
does
you're
the
worried about
information-
that, don't use a phone.
So where does the information go when you say it's tracked? Where does it go?
Everywhere. I mean, that's the sad reality. But I feel confident, more confident in them having that tracking data than I do the cell carriers, because the cell carriers make a lot of money selling that information to government agencies.
Yeah, and so does Google.
No, Google sells ads. They don't sell that information to government.
No, I mean, they make money by selling it. So your information is, once somebody's got it, it goes wherever the heck they want it to go.
So if that's an issue, don't use the Google stuff. And I mean, how else do you think Wave, how else? So it's all part of the crowdsourcing of the community, is just like a message board. There's people that you ask a question and other people answer because it's the crowd that can come up with an answer. Well, that's how Waze, Apple Maps, and Google Maps get all their pertinent information on how traffic is, what this, where there's a traffic stop, things like that. So, if all I can say is, if you don't want to be tracked, don't use your phone. Turn it off completely.
Okay, because, what would be nice if you had an option to let your phone send all that information or not send it. What you're saying is there's
Well,
no
but then, okay, so if everybody turned that off, then Waze would no longer be useful to you for traffic.
That's true, but most people don't think about privacy these days.
Well, but it's the big picture. So if you choose to participate, you should fully participate. It sends it anonymously, and they're very transparent about what they do with it. So, if, like I said, if it bothers you, don't use it. And you don't have a right, you shouldn't have a right to use it if you're not going to share that information, because then you're leeching from the system, because you're getting everybody else's information. If everybody did the same thing, that wouldn't be useful information.
Yeah, but then since they don't, it's not really a big issue.
So don't
and
use
I get the point, which is there's no way you can really, in your settings, opt out of anything.
Well, and are you afraid for Apple using it in Apple Maps?
Not so much that.
Okay, so then just use Apple Maps. Because we know that Apple's main concern.
Does that have traffic updates too, like Waze does?
Yes.
Okay.
And it does it. It submits it anonymously. And Apple security and privacy. If your concern is that and you still want to use it, do that. But otherwise, it's going to be static and you won't have traffic. So.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to check to see whether, when you raise that, whether the Apple has the traffic updates too. It sounds like that's an option.
Okay. And someone else had a hand up, I believe. Did they have a question? They may have lowered it.
I found my answer, so I lowered it.
Okay, good. Thanks, Roy. Right. All righty. Okay, so that was Apple Maps. Let me go back into the keynote. And again, the AQI was something that wherever you're hovered over, they have AQI. That's great. I'm going to show you this. Okay, another huge feature in the iPhone. One of the very first apps that ever came out from the iPhone very early on was Google Translate. It's completely free. and it will translate into 80 different languages. And I'll show you that since we have time. I'll do a bit of a hands-on with it. But I just want to show you this. They acquired a company called WordLens, and this will translate that sign that's in Cyrillic in the background, and it will say, oh, that's what the sign means. Completely free. And actually, if you're on T-Mobile, you can use all the data you want because you get it free in 210 countries. But Google Translate will allow you to download the languages ahead of time, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Bert, you have a question?
Yes, hi. I frequently I used to travel to out of town.
Yeah, now you travel to the kitchen and to the
I know.
bedroom. That's about it.
So hate this. But last year I went to England, Scotland, and Wales, and I wanted to
Oh,
see.
you need a translator for England?
Well, no, this reverts back, sweetie, to the Google Maps feature because I wanted to see the Tower of London and see if I could just download a street view map of the building and then have access to that while I am in the country and not have to use Wi-Fi on the street with my iPhone.
Well, you wouldn't be using Wi-Fi probably on the street. You'd be using cellular. Who's your carrier?
It's Sprint.
Okay, which is now T-Mobile. And with T-Mobile, you get free data in 210 countries. Just throwing that out there because for that travel, it makes a difference. But you can do it two different ways, and I'm going to show you how, and it's a great question.
Thank you.
Google Maps allows you to download maps, and I'll show you how to do that. And I'm glad you brought it up. The other one is there's one called City Maps to Go, and it lets you go in and download cities and things like that. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to let's actually do London. So London.
Thank you, Ken.
So I'm going to just go search London in the UK. Okay. So there's London, and for some reason I got to turn off this whole bike thing. Anyway, well, that's what all this green stuff is. So now, if you'll notice, there's a new tab, and it used to be in a different spot. It says download. As I'm swiping this across, it says download. Now, here's what you do is you expand or contract how much you want to download. And at some point, see it start getting smaller. So what I do is I go to what it is, then I can position it where I want, and it will download everything that's in that picture. And it says that may take up 470 megabytes of storage, which isn't a big deal. And this is why you want a space on your phone. So I'll just say download. So I'm going to not wait for it to do it. But it stays on your phone for 30 days. And you totally don't need anything. You don't have to have a cell signal for this to work because the GPS in your phone will still work. So when you're on Wi-Fi at the hotel the night before, things like that. Or if, for instance, when I did last summer, my brother's family and I we went up on a cruise along the Alaska cruise, and I knew I wasn't going to have cell coverage along certain parts, but I really wanted to see where I was. So I downloaded different sections along the way so that I could access those. And when you fire up Maps, it will go into whatever section because it knows the GPS in the phone still works. It may take a little while for your GPS to acquire because what happens normally is they have what's called a GPS, which is assisted GPS. So I don't know if any of you remember old GPS devices that you took. If you flew to somewhere, it would take up to 30 minutes for you to get a lock on where you were because it didn't realize you were in a whole different place and it has to reacquire all the satellites. Well, the phones use GPS assistance because every cell tower knows its GPS, so it will instantly give you a GPS location even if you're not using cellular. So, but that's how you do it. You go in and you say, let's see, again, I'll go here. Actually, I'll do London. And then you'll notice down here is download. And then again, you draw the map where you want it to be. You can zoom out. And here, all the features that you would normally find in that area, if you're looking for a restaurant, looking for directions and things like that. The other thing that happens though is, as you're going along, sometimes your turn-by-turn directions may not update. But anyway, that's how you do the map. And again, the other one was called City Maps to Go. So Apple Maps and Waze do not allow you to download that map. A little tip for travel also, because you know I do the travel thing. I recommend that if you don't have a Gmail address, you should get a Gmail address you use, even if you just use it for travel, because I'll show you. I'm going to go to google.com/travel and say go. And look at this. I've been looking at hotels and things in the Eastern Sierras upcoming, and I never did any of this. And here's my details. And because this came to my Gmail account, my hotel reservations are right there. I didn't do anything to this. It makes itineraries for you. So I have not done anything to curate this. That just comes into my Gmail account, and there's my hotel reservations for upcoming. Again, that's google.com/travel. And then here's, so for instance, this is, and we go from there to Yosemite, and then recent potential trips. If I've been searching for different things, it'll show me here. Actually, some of these I don't recognize, but I guess I looked at them. Anyway, so that's very beneficial. I'm going to go in and show you the Translate app now from Google. So I know very few words in Spanish, but I will. So along here, you'll see there's 4 choices: camera, handwriting, conversation, and voice. So I could go and say handwriting, and I can say beer. And it does beer, and it's cerveza, okay? So I can go back and close that. I can do voice, beer. Well, and then when I tap cerveza, okay, so it tells me that. If I go into conversation mode, can you tell me where is the best beer? Uno más cerveza.
One more beer.
So in other words, at the bottom, you'll notice there's 2 different colored microphones. I tapped the lavender one, which did it in Spanish over to English and back and forth, so you can have a conversation back on there. I'm going to hit the arrow in the upper there, and we're back to the beginning. So the handwriting mode also works if you're in, for instance, China or Japan, where they use the characters. It works perfectly for that. And then the camera mode was just like we showed you a minute ago. Let's see if this will work. So now the one thing you have to do is flip it from English to Spanish. So I'm going to put camera. Oh, that won't work because it did it. Hang on. Let's take, I'm going to go from English to Spanish. Camera. And I'll take this word, latest comments. Oh, it doesn't work on the screen because we got so many going on. Anyway, you would just hold it up to it. But remember, you're looking at a sign in Spanish, so you hit the arrows to convert it from Spanish to English, and that's camera. So anyway, that's great. And if I turn that back, I just hit the arrows at the top, and when I hit the right, these are all the languages that it's available in. And you'll notice that most languages can be downloaded ahead of time, so you do not have to use Wi-Fi. So you'll notice I have a check mark by German because I was in Austria, and I was recently in Cambodia and Vietnam, and Khmer was interesting because it was live, H-I-J, Khmer. You'll notice there's no download arrow for Khmer. So I could only use Khmer, the Cambodian language, when I had to have a cellular connection, which all throughout Cambodia and Vietnam was great, but I couldn't download it. On the other hand, Vietnamese, I was able to download, I believe. Yeah, Vietnamese was downloaded. And once you download it, it stays in there until you delete it. And they don't take up a lot of room. And believe it or not, it just has tons of them. So you can see I have German, Vietnamese, and Korean loaded on there. And you can pick any of these others. It's a fantastic app and it's totally free. All right, any questions on Google Translate? Oh, and Bert, you put that question in, so I think I answered that for you. All right, let me go back to the keynote. So again, how this works is that's a sign in Russian, I think it is, and you tap that. Oops. Hang on. I think that's fantastic. I'm going to demonstrate these two apps and two apps for, you know, we're stuck where we're probably not going to fly places, but we could be driving a lot. This app is the best thing I ever found. I forget how I found it, but every time I go to a national park, I just hope that they have the Gypsy Guide for there. And I'll demonstrate it in a second here. So the Gypsy Guide, this is quite a few of the tours they have. They also, they do like Arches and Canyonlands. You can buy them separately or buy them together. And then once you have the app, you've bought it for good. There's no monthly fee or anything like that. And you're able to completely download these apps to the phone. And there's a new one called Here, which I'll talk about in a second. So let me go to the Gypsy Guide. I have a few Gypsy Guides. Where'd it go? There it is. So these are a few of the ones I have downloaded. I have others that I don't have on the phone. But let's go to, oh, let's see. I may not have the Yosemite one on here. Yep, there's my Gypsy Guide for Yosemite. So I, as a kid, used to spend a week every year in the summer camping in Yosemite. I know Yosemite like the back of my hand. Well, the last time Al Trivet and Ken Henry and I went to photograph the February a year and a half ago to photograph the Firefall, we used Gypsy Guide and it told me things about Yosemite that I never knew. And it's fantastic. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate on here how it works. And I just can't speak highly enough of it. So here we can say browse the tour. What I do now if I'm going to a new area, I'll generally preview the route to find out where the good things are. Or like we did when we went to Glacier Park, we went to the Road to the Sun. We went one day using the Gypsy Guide really quick to find out where we wanted to stop and spend time the following day. So it may or may not work sound-wise through here. I hope it does. But this will play through the Bluetooth speakers in your car. And it will also, as you're driving along, and you can completely download the tour, it will completely, it knows what direction you're going. So if I go along this route, you'll see these little red arrows. So this is coming in the 120 route, going on along. And then you'll see the yellow ones are the arrows going the other way. Each one of these arrows is a point of interest that it tells you what's up. So then, and then this green one up to Hetchy is a different route. And that's a up and back. So that's why they don't have arrows coming back the other way. But it knows which way you're going and will give you the appropriate description for where you are. Bryce, I'll take care of yours in a second there. So if we go down here, we'll go down into Yosemite Valley. So you can see there's all kinds of routes here. There's going all the way up to Glacier Point. So let's do this. Let's tap, let's say this red one here. Sentinel Beach.
If this is our first time ever driving around Yosemite Valley's Loop Drive, I'm sure you're getting the idea about just how awe-inspiring a place this is. The first white people recorded to have seen the valley.
So that can go on. Let's hit the green arrow that would have been coming the other way.
Make sure we're on the right side of the road. It's two-way traffic here. The best place to search El Capitan's or the Chief's base for climbers is on the other side of the bridge. So find a space once the bridge is in sight. I hope we have some binoculars too. Sometimes volunteers set up telescopes to help you find the climbers on the cliff. Once we reach Northside Drive, we cannot turn right as it's a one-way.
So there's things like and it's interesting because he'll say, oh, you know, right after this next curve, there's a really small turnout, which you won't really know about because other places because it may be small. He says, if there's room, make sure you pull in here and you can take a little quarter-mile trail to go see this. So it is it's almost like a custom tour guide that goes with you. It is absolutely fantastic. And you can see in Yosemite all those points of interest. Now, if there's spots in there where there's no sights to see, he'll go into the geology and the history of the area and things like that. So it's fantastic. So that's called Gypsy Guide. I'm going to show you in the App Store what it looks like. So I'm going to just type in Gypsy Guide, and you'll notice that the logo Gypsy Guide is like GPS behind it. So if I tap that, it shows all the different ones and their different collections. Really a ton of Hawaiian ones. And I think they're based out of Canada. So they have a lot of the Canadian national parks, but they have a bunch of US national parks too. And I just go to their website and try to find out what it is. So it's fantastic. There's a new one that doesn't do exactly the same. And actually I found out about this, an old associate that I worked with, was his brother built this app, and it's getting rave reviews, and it's called Hear Here, like hear voice, Hear Here. I think it's around a $10 app. Somebody can check that in the App Store. Since I've already bought it, I can't tell. Oh, that's interesting. I thought I'm signed in. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to continue as guest. Okay, so here. Uh-oh, that's not a good sign. Well, I can explain what it does, but it seems to be failing. So I probably need to reboot my phone or see if there's an update for it. But what Here does is it's more like not so much scenic, but historical things. Like it would show the Sutter's Mill at Coloma and different things like that. And as you travel, it will show you different things, and they're adding spots all the time. And I was really surprised how many spots there were. Let's see what happens when I go to their website.
Annual subscription, $25.
$25, but the app, does it have a cost for just the app?
No, it's free, but
the app's free, so
then
those
you subscribe.
Got it. Yeah, get the app free, text me. So actually, let's just use this.
Ready?
There's a little 2-minute video on it, if it would show on the screen. There we go.
Ready?
What's that? It's a new app I downloaded that tells us stories about places we're driving through.
Welcome to one of the most picturesque regions in our country.
Kevin Costner's a
Landscape
partner in
and
it.
climate are a result of massive geological shifts that compress the mountains in many cases right up to the sea. If you were to walk back 250 years, what you would see is a raw, dry earth cut by a series of modest rivers and streams shaded by sycamore and oak. The same waters would also provide for a people. They are called the Chumash. Traces of their existence go as far.
So I won't bore you with the rest of it. Obviously, it's not showing this. It is running in the background as you're driving and giving you audio of that. Kevin Costner is one of the partners in this, and it was really good. And I'm going to have to find out why there may be an update pending for the app, but it's Here, H-E-A-R, H-E-R-E. Royce has a question. How do you get a map again? what app? Maps, Google. If I go to London and go in or out and get that map. Royce, I'm not clear on what you're asking. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, yes. You explained, you showed how you went into something and it showed you the London map. And you could go in or out. You could get a real up-to-date, real close maps or far away maps of half of England. What map was it?
Oh, so that's when I go,
you
so I'm
get
in the map and it's in Google Maps and I'm in London here, but then I actually have to search for London. So there, once I've hit London, there's a little bar along the bottom here that starts with directions. If I go across, I come to downloads.
Okay.
And what this is telling me is what's in the middle of the screen is what I want to download. So I could say, oh, just give me a small map. You'll see it says it's 195 megabytes and it's only that. But let's zoom out and we're getting as much information as I can. Okay, so that's the maximum, because if I go smaller, see the square gets smaller. So it says it's 430 megabytes. And what that is that's saying I'm going to be downloading this map for offline use.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I didn't go that, slide it over and over to get to download.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what it's on the far side. It used to be under a little hamburger menu that you had to go to. So let's see.
Thank you.
Yep. So Cynthia asked, is there a guide for gypsy guides? And yes, there is. ESY guide. gypsyguide.com, and you go to the website and it's a little bit better on the computer, but you can go in here and you can hit national parks, and here's all the different national parks and destinations. Like if you're just going to go to Western US and search by that. So here's the Western US tours, search. So there's 13 tours for the Western US, and there they are. Black Hills, Yellowstone, Grand Tetons, Arches and Canyons, Lands, etc. That's interesting. Zion should be in here somewhere, going to the sun. Oh, it's alphabetically. Grand Teton. So there's Grand Teton, that's $4.99, and Yellowstone is tied with it. So Yellowstone is $6.99, but if we go here, you can get Yellowstone and Grand Teton for $9.99. So that's how they do the bundling on that. So check it out and see. And once you own it. There's no monthly fee or anything else. And I just can't speak highly enough. Ken Henry, you've traveled with me on it. Do you agree? If you're there, okay. Anyway, that was it for those. Any other questions right now on these things? Okay, so I have a couple of notes here. Oh, so I want to show you, since air quality is an issue right now, there's Air Now, there's an app, but I like purpleair.com. So I say view the map, and I allow it to use my location, and it zooms in. Yeah, I'll accept the cookies. So it zooms in closest to me, and you'll notice I'll say no inside sensors, and it says it's 151, and you'll notice that little area is just the city limits. But if I zoom out, see up in the foothills, we're getting quite a bit. Down towards Sacramento, it's a little less, and you'll see the scale on the bottom, it's orange. If we go over to the coast, it'll probably be, there's yellow, and then up here it's green and yellow. So this is really pretty cool. There are sometimes some sensors that may be a little off. Like I'm sure that one right there at 19 is probably not correct. So it doesn't mean that that little spot doesn't get any smoke. So anyway, that's Purple Air. There's an app that's called Air Now, I believe it is. Air Now from the EPA. And it's loading slow. There it is. Actually, the nice thing is here, this gives you forecasts also. So let me look at my notes here. Oh, so back, and again, after I get done with the class, I'm happy to do that, that thing on do the home screen. But if I want to do a Safari Mac, let's say I did Purple Air. So I'm going to hit cancel. I'm at Purple Air. I can use the same thing at the bottom if I want to save this to my home screen. I simply hit the share arrow at the bottom. And when I hit the share arrow, I'm going to go down here and say add to home screen. And it takes it and makes a little icon of it. And if I hit add, then what happens is it adds it to my home screen. I may have deleted it before. Anyway, it looks like an app, but it's actually just a bookmark. Oh, I don't have room. Let's see if I can do that real quick. So add to home screen, Purple Air, and I'm going to hit add. There it is. See, it's an icon right on there. And that's just simply a bookmark. Even though it looks like an app, it's a bookmark and it goes right to Purple Air. So you can always do that. Mary, question?
Well, oops, you may have just answered it because I couldn't find Purple Air in the App Store. So
No, it's not. It's not an app. It's a website.
Okay.
PurpleAir.com.
Perfect.
But now I made it look like an app.
Yep, you did.
And actually, so in the very early days of the iPhone, that's the only way you could get apps. They were called web apps, and they were limited by what Safari could do. And you know, now we have an app store that's just crazy with the amount of stuff. And I should point out, so you can always use Siri. I have 600, 800 apps on this phone, and I can just say things like launch TPE. And I give it the name of the app, boom. I don't have to search through all my apps to find it. It does it. Let's see. Launch Waze.
Opening Waze. By the way, if you want to start navigation hands-free, say, get directions using Waze.
Now that's new. I forgot that that was added. So I'm going to say, get directions to Sacramento International Airport using Waze.
Getting directions to Sacramento
Yes.
International Airport using Waze.
Fantastic. So now it's not just Apple Maps. So Ken learned something at Ken's class today. I knew they were implementing that and I didn't think it had made it yet. So he's same with Google Maps. So that's wonderful. So let's see here. Bookmark. Oh, and I really encourage people to have cases, protectors around their phones because they do drop. But I also really encourage you to have a tempered glass screen protector because these screens are expensive. And you look for one called a 9H. And I wouldn't get one that's a matte finish or anything like that because it tends to, you have this beautiful, very high-end screen and it has a tendency to make it not as crisp and clear. I have a crack on my screen protector, so I always buy a 2-pack and I'll be taking it off later today and putting a new one on. I'd rather sacrifice that screen protector than sacrifice the actual glass because it is quite expensive. And if you ever have to replace a battery or replace a glass, only do it from Apple or an Apple authorized service center because there's so much stuff going on that it really, really makes it important. Amazon is your source for that. And the cases that I like are a company called Spigen, S-P-I-G-E-N. And this case, I choose cases that don't show the Apple logo. Since I travel a lot, I don't like to advertise that I have a $1,400 phone just sitting right there. So, Mary, you have a question?
Yeah, how did you get the Purple Air on your screen? I missed that.
So if you go to Purple Air, right at the bottom, you'll see that share box. The little arrow box with the arrow, tap that, and then come on down and say add to home screen.
Okay.
And that creates a little icon. And it is simply a bookmark. So the other thing that happens is, I'm sure there are people out there that feel they have to force quit their apps all the time. Force quitting your apps is, you shouldn't do that. There's no need to do it, and you shouldn't do it. It really doesn't do anything. In fact, it makes your battery life worse. So you just shouldn't. So but sometimes with GPS apps, you do want to quit them because they can run in the background. So on a Face ID phone, you pull up and wait a little bit, and then you can go through here and you can swipe up and force quit your apps. But do not go through and force quit all your apps. The reason for that is the only time you ever want to do it is Facebook or Messenger, because they're terrible code, and they really, even if you're not looking at them, they use a ton of your battery. Sometimes music apps, and sometimes GPS apps. So you can force quit those sometimes, or many times you have an app misbehaving where it just is just gray and doesn't work. So you come up and you swipe up, and if you're on a Face ID phone, I believe you double tap the home button, and then you get this carousel, and you can see I have lots of apps running right now, but they're not really running. None of those will work until I tap on them. In fact, mail. So look at here, you can see there's Lifehacker in my mailbox. And that means it's not running because that's not my newest email. In fact, that was at 4:20 a.m. So see, that means mail is there, but it hasn't been checking mail. So watch what happens when I activate mail. It will now check for mail, and I haven't looked at mail on my phone since 4:21 this morning. So now it's going to bring it in. So it was in hibernation mode. Apps behind the front app don't do anything, okay? So you don't have to worry about, there it is, there were 61 new emails. So even though that was, quote, running in the background, it was in hibernation mode. You do not need to force quit apps. The other thing you can do to see what your apps are using is if you go into settings, battery, and it will show you what apps are using the amount of your battery. Cynthia, we have a question.
Well, is there a way to turn off the app without force quit?
No, when the app is off when you're not on it. When you go to a different app, it's like stacking, think of it this way. It's like stacking pieces of paper up. Let's say you have 10 pieces of paper on your desk. If you put the top paper on there, your brain is not using anything on the papers that are underneath that one. It's there, it's out of sight, out of mind. You're not doing anything at all. So what happens is the iPhone is just using the top app. The other apps are back there in hibernation mode, not doing anything. Unless it's a GPS app, because it could be giving you directions, or if it's a music streaming app, it could be giving you music. But other than that, they're in hibernation mode behind there. And as I showed you with mail, only when you bring it up to the front does that become an active app. And so the battery, people think that they force quit the apps to save battery, when in fact, unless the app's misbehaving, that's not true, because it actually takes more energy to fire up an app that's been quit than it does to simply leave it in hibernation and just start looking at it. Did that answer your question okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Ken, I had a question. Can you go back to what you were saying about the screensavers? I think you said don't use the plastic ones, but I missed what it was you said is good.
You want to use tempered glass, and always buy them. You can get a 2-pack for like $10 on Amazon. And you want tempered glass, and look for a 9H as in Harry. 9H is what is considered tempered glass. And if you want to get a really fancy one that's a little bit better, it'll say it's oleophobic. So it doesn't mean it's afraid of oleos. It actually means that the oil, it's resistant to the oils in your fingers. Oleophobic. Okay. And our screens are oleophobic as it is. So, you know, I mean, a bare screen is the best, but you know what? It's just, I use my phone a lot, and I drop it rarely, but when I do, I don't want to have it shattered. And so I have the glass. Even though I have AppleCare Plus, which covers it, I just don't want to shatter my screen.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
You bet. Any other general questions? I promised I was going to go through settings. So I'm going to go to the main setting page and just kind of walk through this for you guys. And again, you may have to go back to the recording to get down in depth. And I'm happy to answer questions as we go into different preferences. The first one you'll notice is your iCloud, where your name is. So if you tap that, there's settings. Now they've changed around things. So if I say name, phone number, and email, I'll tap that. And it's your Apple ID information. So that's all there. The next one is passwords and security. And if I need to change my password, which is my Apple ID password, I can do it there. Recovery key, etc. I wouldn't really mess with any of that. Payments and shipping, actually, this is interesting because I do want it to be my default card a little different. Okay, never mind. Subscriptions. Now this is if you're subscribing to certain things, see here. So I had a year on the here, automate, that one will expire. And I can right from here manage all my, I try to keep as few subscriptions as I can, but that way they'll go ahead and it shows you can turn them off or renew them there, or if they're automatic. So the next one is your iCloud. Now, the first thing is it shows you your iCloud storage space. So I have a 2 terabyte plan, and you can see what's taking up what room on there. If I tap Manage Storage, it takes a second, and it will show you what is using the most amount of space on your iCloud, not on your phone, on your iCloud. So QuickTime Player, I don't know why it's taken up 1 gigabyte. Messages, so anytime someone sends you a video on message, that'll take up room. Keynote, I have a couple keynotes on here. Mail, I have a lot of mail. I have 318,000 emails, so they only take up 19 gigabytes. iCloud Drive, that's storage of documents and things like that. My photos are taking up 138. And this phone is a pretty large phone, so it's using 226 gigabytes with backup. You can share your storage plans with family there. And you can also go into, let's say here, Doc Scanner. So I don't know why I have these documents in here, but I can delete all that document data if I want to. So that was in iCloud. Then the next is when we go to photos, that was managed storage. I choose not to have iCloud photos on. Don't change your settings right now at all because it really takes, figure out what we're doing. In fact, I talked to a client last night and she had 150 gigabytes of photos on the iCloud, but she had iCloud photos on and she says, man, it's taking up so much room. I'm all this, and we looked and it was only her 150 gigabytes that was on the iCloud was taking up less than 6 gigabytes on her phone. So she was able to have all 50,000 photos on her phone. So that's where iCloud Photo comes in. And that's something that's covered better in a photos class because certain people should be on it and certain people shouldn't. Most people should. Obviously, mail, these are all on and off settings. Messages doesn't have to be on. If you turn messages on, what it does is any of those videos and photos that you have in messages, it will store them on the cloud, therefore freeing up space on your phone. Keychain, you definitely should have Keychain on. Keychain is where it stores your passwords for Wi-Fi, for different websites, different apps, things like that. And it syncs amongst all your devices. It's very safe, very secure. There's no way anybody can get into it. If they were to break into your phone, they can disassemble it, they couldn't get it. And of course, iCloud Backup. iCloud Backup is very important. And on your phone, you'll see here that it backs up when your phone goes to sleep or locks with the screen dark. It's on Wi-Fi and it's plugged into power. You can always say backup now and that'll force a backup, but in fact, that it will back up if it's on Wi-Fi and plugged into power and basically not off, but asleep. And that's very important. You should all have that on. iCloud Drive, that's your ability. Like for instance, I'm displaying the keynote here. I was showing the keynote from my phone, but that keynote was made on my iMac and I saved it up there. So all the rest of these, I allow it to put stuff up on the cloud.
Ken?
Yes.
Kimberly here.
Uh-huh.
iCloud Drive is not turned on my phone.
Okay.
Uh,
Do you have documents you keep on iCloud Drive that you'd like to access on your phone?
I don't really do a lot with documents on my phone that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it available if you want, but I mean, there's those times when I keep it on because, like, for instance, the keynote and things like that. But it doesn't take up more room on your phone, and it really, I don't see negatives to it. Do you, Bob? I don't see a negative to having that on.
No,
So I
depends,
don't think it's detrimental.
Oh,
depends on the person's usage.
Yeah. And it goes into what's that file folders that you can do it. But, you know, if you have a text edit document or a pages document, you can pull them up on your phone. But that's totally up to you.
okay.
It's
So
not
if I
necessary.
wanted to work on something on my iPad and then go to my phone.
Yeah, and not just work, but even sometimes just view it.
Right.
Like I have some spreadsheets that I like to pull up. I really am not going to work on them on the phone, even though I can. I just
Right.
like to view them and see what it is really quick.
Okay.
And especially like
Right.
when I'm saving, I'll save PDFs for when I'm doing a trip and things. I want to be able to go in and get it. I can save it in books for that though. So the next thing below iCloud is iTunes and App Store. So I should point out here that some people have a different Apple ID for their iTunes than they do for other. This is where you would enter that. And I tell it not to do automatic uploads on mine. There's just some settings there you can mess with. Family sharing, if you decide to share. Oh, I'm sorry. Find My. This is the new, like, Find My iPhone. You can go find your device and things like that. You want that on, definitely. And you want to be able to go to, Find My Phone you want on, and Share My Location. It means you can share it with family and friend. It doesn't share it unless you tell that family and friend that you're sharing it. So then below that are the list of your Apple devices. Well, some of these I don't have any longer, but most, actually, these are pretty accurate. Nope, it's actually very accurate. So I think I have an Apple problem. That's what I always say. MacNexus is our 12-step program for Apple addicts. But anyway, you can go in there, for instance, and I can tap my iMac, and it gives you information on it. It shows my serial number, etc., which is nice. And back to settings. Going down from there, airplane mode, obviously don't turn that on now. Airplane mode turns off all the radios on your phone. And for instance, if you're worried about data use when you're traveling, you turn airplane mode on, but then that turns Wi-Fi off, but you can immediately go back in and turn on Wi-Fi, and that works. Your Wi-Fi networks. The other thing is, many of you have Xfinity. So Xfinity is never a network you want to be connected to. It'll probably say home or something like that. But if you have Xfinity down here, what I would like you to do is, if it lists Xfinity down below, you can hit the I over by it, and it would say, forget this network. We do not want your phone connecting to Xfinity. It's slower network, and your printer won't show up on it. So that's how you get rid of a network like that. Let's see. Bluetooth should be on all the time. There's so many things that use Bluetooth. And in fact, we think one of the offerings this fall will be a tags, little connector tags. Like, so if you put on your keys, you always know where your keys are, and it uses Bluetooth. Cellular is on. Personal hotspot, that's your ability to share your iPhone data cellular connection with other devices, whether it be a computer, someone else, or your laptop. I've downloaded a VPN on here. It's not a hardcore VPN. VPN means virtual private network, which gives you some level of anonymity and security through anonymity. This is where you manage notifications. You can manage how apps are for notifications, or turn off notifications itself completely. Sounds and haptics. Haptics means the vibration or the feel of the phone. It's two things. When it rings, if it vibrates, which I've had issues with, for some reason mine doesn't like the vibrating. But also haptics, in other words, when you press things, how does it respond? Do not disturb. The nice thing about do not disturb, that's all on there, but there's a new setting. And if you go to Control Center, and if I turn do not disturb off, if I press and hold on do not disturb, now I can say do not disturb for an hour until this evening, until I leave this location, or at the end of this event. You'll notice that that says that this event goes till 1 p.m. Well, it shouldn't really go to 1 p.m., but anyway, if I tap that, it will do not disturb until that time. And again, you pressed and held that. So let's go back to.
Ken, Mary
Yeah.
has a question.
Go ahead, Mary. Thank you.
Yeah, I have Comcast Xfinity, and I don't understand why I would turn it off. I'm not.
Because
getting that. I
Xfinity
use
is
it-
for people that come visit your house and things like that. It's a separate network in your router that your printer's not connected to or anything else. And the problem is if your phone connects to it, it's going to be slower and it's not as good as your regular network. It's a secondary network that's being broadcast out of your home router.
Okay, so it's not the one that I have named using Comcast. It is a separate
No, exactly.
one.
It's just called Xfinity.
Okay, thank you.
That's what they leverage. Like if somebody comes over and they're a subscriber to the Xfinity cell phone, it'll connect through that Xfinity Wi-Fi, not your network, but the separate network. It's just in your router. But it's what happens is it doesn't have a password, and because so the people can connect to it. And the problem is phones already automatically connect to that, and then they can't find their printer, and it's a little slower. So you say forget this network, and that way it doesn't automatically pop up.
Ken?
And that, where was that then under?
In Wi-Fi settings, go down to Xfinity and hit the little I, and it'll either say join this network or forget this network. If it says join this network, it means you've never joined it. That's fine. Leave it like that. Or if you've joined
it doesn't show, so.
It'll say forget. It'll say one or the other when you hit the little blue eye.
Yeah. It doesn't even show up, so.
If it doesn't show up at all, you don't have it on your router.
Hey, Ken?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Dennis, go ahead.
I also have one that says Xfinity Wi-Fi. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, that one doesn't usually join automatically, but I would click on it and see if it says forget this network or join this network right now and see what it says.
It just says configure automatic configure off.
No, so if it doesn't say join this network or forget this network.
It says join this network. That's what it says.
And that means you've not ever joined it, so you're good.
Okay.
But the one that usually happens is the one that just says Xfinity.
That says join this network, so I haven't
Okay,
joined.
so you've forgotten it, which is good. I mean, you've never joined it.
It'll always show up on the bottom, but
It'll definitely show up. But the thing is because it doesn't have a password, the phone can try to automatically join it, and then you're on that network, and then you wonder how you can print because it actually, even though it's through the same router, it's a totally separate network.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure. Screen time is just you can manage your screen time and things like that on your different devices. General. Now, this is where you've got quite a few things. Many times in the about, I can go down and it says, well, I have 569 applications, how many photos I have. There's your serial number. This is where you could rename your phone. If you tap on name, you can call your phone whatever you want. What version of the operating system you're running. And, like if you have Apple Care, it'll say, okay, I've got Apple Care and that expires on September 23rd, 2021. How many songs I have. I don't carry a lot of music on my phone. How many videos I have. And those would be videos that you took with your camera, not online videos. Applications, my capacity of my phone is a 512. I have 187 gigabytes available. Then you go on down here, and sometimes the carrier wants this what's called an EID number, electronic identification number, and then they'll want the IMEI, which are numbers that's part of your SIM card number, who your carrier is, etc. But if I go back up here to the big thing is storage and capacity. You always want to look at that, and especially if you're looking at a new phone, look to see how much you're using or how much is available. Back to the general screen, software update. It shows that I do have one pending. I'll wait to do that till this evening. AirDrop, you want to usually have AirDrop on everyone unless you're concerned about somebody giving you something. It will always prompt you to do it. But I like to send photos from my Mac to my phone, etc. AirPlay and handoff. This is how to automatically go to TVs and things like that. Actually, I do not want it to automatically transfer to the HomePod. I turned that off. And iPhone storage. Now, this is a huge one when you want to see what's in your phone. So my phone is a 512. It takes a while to populate this. And you can see it's 324 gigabytes of 512 Us. So I've used more than half of my 512, so I can't use a 256 phone. Well, that means that the photos I have on board are taking up 166 gigabytes. If I enabled iCloud Photos, I would probably be down to about 6 gigabytes, but I don't need it. And then offload unused apps. And here's what everything, the room, everything takes up. And it's still trying to do that. So. Okay. Let's see. So you can see now it shows I'm using 173 gigabytes of photos. I have that many podcasts and all the different things. And what's interesting is, where's my, I told you I have 137,000 emails, and you'll notice mail is taking up hardly any room at all. In fact, it doesn't even show up because they're not really loaded on the phone. Okay, well, I'm not going to go through all my apps to find it. Date and time. You can do. You can decide to set time zone automatically and stuff when you travel. That's something there. Background app refresh, and that means just let it refresh if the content has changed. It sets it yes automatically, but it doesn't really create any problems. Keyboard, you can do text replacement. This is a nice one. I've done some text replacements. So for instance, Apple Home or Apple Music, I've made a code. When I type AAM, it automatically says Apple Music, including that logo. So if you have text shortcuts of your name or things like that, you can set these, and it's really nice because you just type in those 3 characters or 4 characters, whatever it is, and it will fill in what it is. So that's called text replacement. You have the same thing on your Mac. All the rest of these, auto capitalization, auto correction. So we've all been befuddled by autofill and auto correction. So here's my little tip of the day, and this will probably be the last thing for today is, if I'm typing, in fact, let's see if I can do this. I'm going to type in, I'll go to a new message, and I'm going to say spiel instead of spell. Notice how it's trying to suggest spell down there, right? If I hit a space, it made it sleek. But let's say I want to make it say spiel, S-P-E-E-L. It's going to autocorrect if I continue going. I'm just going to tap one extra letter. It doesn't matter what letter it is. A G, for instance. Then I'm going to use the backspace arrow. And now when I hit space, it does not autocorrect it. So you put in one extra character and then backspace out of that character, and it will hold what you really typed. It will not autocorrect over what you've done. So you'll notice that it's kind of red underlined. So if I tap on it, it should give me suggestions. And it gives me selections down below, speed or speech, which do I want it to be? So anyway, again, I can say, let's say astound. I'll do it wrong, A-S-T-O-U-N-D. But let's say I wanted that. Instead of changing it to astound, I put an M at the end, then I backspace out of the M, and it kept it as astound being misspelled. It's not adding it to my dictionary or anything else, okay? Another great little trick is, let's put the word astound in. And if I tap it and I say select, now if I go over here, I have the ability to look up, and that will look it up in a dictionary for you. And that could be if you're reading in Safari and you see a word you want, you just highlight that one word and say look up. Okay, it's lunchtime. Oh, and I didn't even do a, boy, you guys are, I'm relentless. I didn't even do a break today. I apologize. Somebody should have reminded me. So stick around if you want to make sure we get that home help screen, the table of contents and everything on there. I'm happy to do that, but I do want to field any last questions from anybody if there's anything that I didn't cover. We covered a lot. Anybody? Go ahead and speak up or raise your hand, doesn't matter.
If you want to listen in on the board meeting, come back at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, we're going to have our board meeting at 1 o'clock. It's really exciting. And don't forget, I should point out too that we are taking self-nomination to be on the board. The pay is really great, and you get to, and the board meetings are usually kept under an hour, and it's good to do, and we're a volunteer-run organization, and volunteer-run organizations always need volunteers. So I will turn my share off on my phone. We'll get the rogues gallery of everybody back there. Go ahead and feel if you have any questions, I'll be able to answer them. And if you're sticking around to learn how to put that help screen on the home screen, go ahead and don't leave the thing. So we've got people leaving. That's great.
Ken?
Yes, go ahead, Dennis.
One question. Sometimes when I'm texting, the autocorrect will not work. Is that something that I can correct on my phone?
Is it just on texting that it doesn't work?
I think.
Oh, so you're asking for a friend. I hear Berta in the background. Hi, Berta.
He's hiding behind the plane.
Behind the plane.
Yeah. You're in the jet wash.
Yeah.
So first thing I would do would be force quit the app. If it's only in text, I would force quit the app and come back to it. And does autocorrect work like in mail and stuff usually?
Yes. But
Yeah, so I would force quit the app, and at worst comes to worst, go ahead and restart the phone. But then the other thing you can look up is look at doing what's called a hard reset on the phone. And depending on which phone model it is, just Google hard reset iPhone, and it should take you through that.
So
I just think it's something in the little code. There's some little thing that's just missed.
if I reset the app, will that?
No, you don't reset the app. You're going to force quit the app where you double tap and then swipe it up away and try restarting the app. See it, and if that doesn't do it, do a restart on the phone. If that doesn't do it, you do what's called a hard reset, and you won't lose anything.
Okay.
I always recommend make sure you have a current iCloud backup beforehand on your phone.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Ken.
Good.
Ken?
Donna, go ahead.
Oh,
You need to unmute yourself, Donna. Unmute yourself. You need to click the unmute button on the.
Thank you.
So, go ahead.
Do not disturb. If you check while phone is locked, does that mean you won't hear your messages or your phone ringing?
If you're on Do Not Disturb, it will not. Your phone will not ring. There is an exception to that, and you can set it. You can make it so favorites could come through and ring on Do Not Disturb. They'll come through. Or there's also a setting if someone calls you twice in succession, which was the old way to do it in case it was an emergency, you can set that to let it break through. But if you're on Do Not Disturb, you will not hear any sounds unless it's your alarm, your wake up alarm, or your timer expiring alarm.
So when you click while iPhone is locked, what would it
that
says,
means that the disturb things won't come up when your phone's locked.
What won't come up?
Anything they won't. Your phone will not.
Okay.
It will not.
So I don't want that.
It will not make noise.
So you do. So actually, there's only two things I can choose: always or while phone is silenced, while always or while phone is locked.
Oh, the idea there is so you can, if you say only silence while locked, that means if you've got the phone unlocked and you're using it, it won't, do not disturb will not be active. And you're saying only make it active when the phone's locked. In other words, you're sitting and not using your phone. Otherwise, it still will make sounds.
Oh, so this doesn't count if, as long as you don't put on do not disturb.
I don't follow you.
On do not disturb, if that's off.
Let me look, hang on.
What about silence? What is, the next one is.
Yeah, hang on, let me go in to get to the same screen as you. Do not disturb.
And then down silence.
So silence is always, which means if you have always done, my phone is always on. If I'm looking at my phone, I won't hear anything. Things will pop up, but I won't hear them. And then if you just do it while phone is locked, that means if you're looking at the phone, you're going to hear the messages. If you set your phone down and the phone, it locks, quote unquote, when it goes to sleep. Yeah. Locked means you've got to put in your fingerprint ID or your passcode or your face ID. So when it's locked, that would then make it so it doesn't make any noise. So it's just when it's locked, it doesn't make noise, or always doesn't make noise.
And the noise is the ding or whatever
whatever your sound is for different things. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I assume everybody here needs to finish the thing we were doing. I'll go through it quite slowly again. In fact, let me bring up, I like to show the actual.
Ken, could you also talk about adding the, download the iPhone app or the iPhone book?
You bet.
Okay, thanks.
So let me share this screen. Okay, so up at the top is the one we're going to enter on the phone first. And then this is what the iPhone user guide book looks like. So we'll do the phone first. So anybody, and in fact, everybody for right now, go ahead and unmute your mics because I want to make sure everybody gets this. And I'm going to ask you if you don't have it to speak up. So, yeah, go ahead and unmute your mics. Dennis, Elaine, Lena, and Rich, you guys can unmute yourself. And I'm sorry, Bert, you got a question, Bert?
Oh, I did. I'll ask it after this. I don't want to.
Okay, thank you. So go ahead and leave your guys' mics open, and I will ask as we go through these steps to make sure you have it, and I only want to hear if you don't. So we're going to be doing help.apple.com/iPhone. If you're on an iPad, we can do it on an iPad, and that's the same thing, help.apple.com/iPad. So I'm going to go to Safari. So everybody go to Safari and only Safari, not Google Chrome, not Firefox. And you're on an iOS device, this will not work on your Mac. So go to your phone and go to settings. And you got to go back to the first set. I'm sorry, I'm not in settings, excuse me.
Go to Safari.
Go to Safari. It started with an S. So is there anybody not in Safari right now? Okay, so I'm going to tap up at the top, right in the middle, and it highlights what's up there. I don't have to get rid of it or anything. It's highlighted. So I'm going to type the word help, H-E-L-P, then a period. Help, then Apple, A-P-P-L-E, then a period, and then com, C-O-M. So is there anybody that doesn't have help.apple.com so far? Don't click on anything unless I say.
Sorry.
What's that?
I haven't written it yet, no. And it capitalizes my H, so I have to go back.
Not if you're in Safari, it won't capitalize it.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was in messages, jeez.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if it's capitalized, but in Safari, it will not capitalize it. Mm-hmm. Anything to the left of .com, capitalization doesn't matter. But after I put this slash in to the right of .com, capitalization does count. So I'm going to wait for you to get into Safari and go up to the top and type in help.apple.com. And let me know when you have it. Is there anyone else that does not have this?
help.apple.com iPhone, right?
No, I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh,
Help.apple.com.
okay.
Shoot.
Anybody not there? Okay, now in the lower left, hit the 1, 2, 3 to change your keyboard to that. And right under the 2, you're going to put that slash. So /, then hit ABC to get back to the main key. And then when you're on the main keyboard, type in iPhone. Okay. Everyone, let me know if you're not there, anyone. help.apple.com/iPhone. Don't worry about that slash at the end. It may or may not show up. It does not matter. Is there anyone not there? Please speak up. Okay. In the lower right, it says go. So tap go. And everyone should get this screen. Tell me if you do not have this screen.
Ken, I'm not there.
Okay.
Don't know why.
Where are you?
I'm not there. Well, I'm on Safari, and it says iPhone user guide, everything you need to know about iPhone. And then up in the search bar.
What did you type in?
I put in help.apple.com.
/iPhone?
Well, when I put the slash
No,
in,
there's no well about it. It's a yes or no answer. Help?
No.
Well, then why
help.apple.
Apple.
Well, what happens is it goes https://help.apple.com.
That fills in down below. I didn't say anything about filling in down below.
I didn't.
Are you in Safari or Chrome?
Safari.
Okay. And you've typed help.apple.com at the very, very, very top, not in Google. The very
I'm
top.
just going to search or enter website name. Right?
Okay. Yes. Help.apple.
lp.apple.com.
.com. Now, below it, does it see how mine says the second one under top hits? It says iPhone user guide. Does that come up on yours?
Yes.
Why don't you just tap that? Then you don't have to put in the rest of it.
Great.
Okay. And
Yes.
you're on an iPhone, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So now, is there anybody not on this screen?
No.
Somebody's not? Somebody said something.
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay. Where are you?
Well, it's a big fat finger that keeps it in the wrong keys. So go ahead. I'll catch
Chop
up.
that finger off and use a different one.
Pinky.
Yeah. Help.apple.com. Well, you can put that in later, but I'll show you where we go from here because it's really pretty easy at this point.
Help.
So if you guys pull down on this screen, you'll notice that you get the little share box at the bottom. Is there anyone that cannot see right in the center, the little box with the upward pointing arrow out of it? Let me know if you cannot see that. Everyone can see it, I assume?
I don't see it.
Okay, what do you see?
I see what you have, but where's the arrow?
You see in center at the bottom, the little box?
Oh, no, I like table of contents and a plus?
No. Okay, so here's what you do. Notice how I'm moving the screen up?
Okay.
But then if I pull down, it shows up a little thing along the bottom. Do you now see that? When you pull your finger down,
right, I'm pulling
does it
down.
put this little thing along the box that in my case is black? Yours may not be
Along the
dark.
bottom.
Do you see that?
No, I don't.
Have you pulled down from the top?
Swipe it a different way.
Yeah.
You've pulled down from the top, swiping your finger down. Watch me on the screen here. Swiping the finger down.
I don't even see it on yours. Where is the arrow?
Well, but I need to find out. There's a thing that displays. How old's your phone?
Fairly new. It's an XS.
Okay. So, and you've updated it?
Uh-huh.
So notice how I'm moving the content, okay?
Yes.
I'm scrolling, I'm moving my finger up, which scrolls us down the page, correct?
I do that also, right?
Okay. Now, put your finger not at the top, but I want you to scroll up by moving your finger down and look what appears at the bottom. did that appear?
I have a go back, the one, this sign to go up to the iCloud, a book.
No, that's not what it means.
The thing right in this, so you have a left arrow
I got a left arrow.
and then a grayed out right arrow.
Yes.
And what's next to it?
Going to the
That's the
iCloud.
share button. That's a box with an arrow coming out.
Oh, I didn't know that was your arrow that you're talking about. Okay, I've got it.
Tap that. Everybody tap that. And you're going to get this guide. Is there anyone that did not have this pop up? Please speak up.
I got it.
And anyone that doesn't have it. So
Yeah.
now I'm going to slide that thing up to expose the 7th item that says add to home screen. So we're going to tap add to home screen anywhere along that line. And now you've got this. Is there anyone that is not here? Please speak up. Anyone? Okay. I don't really like it to say Apple support. So in the bottom, right above the done key, you see a backward facing arrow, a left facing arrow. I'm going to keep tapping it to delete Apple support. So it just says iPhone guide. Is there anyone that has not been able to do that?
I do not have my keyboard up to do that.
Does it say iPhone user guide at the top?
Yes.
Just tap on it one time. You've tapped on something
okay.
else.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it should have been there automatically, but you tapped on something else. Never tap unless I tell you to tap.
Okay. Got it.
So is there anyone not at this point?
Where are we on?
Anyone? Okay. Simply hit add in the upper right corner. And then you're going to be at your home screen and you'll notice that you'll have this Apple user guide logo. It's probably
Yes.
white with a dark gray Apple logo. Is there anyone that did not get that? No one didn't get it. Okay, we're good?
Thank you.
So all you do is tap on it and then it's fully usable. And what you do is you go in there that tells you all these things and you can tap on table of contents. But you can always go back to that and on your screen and tap that iPhone user guide. Very helpful, and it always updates. And that's also the same way you bookmark any website you want to be on your home screen. Don't do a ton of bookmarks onto your home screen. There's other ways to bookmark, but if you have an important location that you go to a lot, you can do that.
Okay.
So next is how to get that book. And you go to pull down and go to books, Dennis, B-O-O-K-S. So I'm going to tap books. So in books in the lower right, you'll see search. So you tap that and I type in iPhone user guide, G-U-I-D-E, okay? Now I'm not going to hit any of those choices down below. I'm just going to hit search because I want it to get everything. And you'll notice here, the first thing in the bookstore, there's one on the right there. I can buy it for $3.99, but it's iPhone 11, which is not what we're on, so we don't want that. But the first one is from Apple and it says iPhone user guide, and you tap that. Now, unlike the one we just did, this will not update when the new OS comes out. You'll need to go back in and Apple will have one for iOS 14. And you download in and at that time you can delete, once you update to iOS 14, you can delete the old version of the book. But this book lives on your device and it's really quite good. And if I tap it, you can see here, different, every page goes through what's new in iOS 7.13, how to do emojis, everything. If I turn this sideways, nope, I don't get a table of contents. Okay, and then you just get rid of that. Dennis, what?
On the first part, when you go to your option screen to sign it in, would you do that one more time? Why, we want to see it one more time.
To what? Download what?
Download the book again. So I'm on, it's Apple support, yeah. So on that
Yeah,
screen.
no, you go to books. So I just pull down from my screen in the middle and start typing books.
Oh, I got you. Right.
And then I go to books, and then you're in the bookstore, but you're buying it, but it's actually free.
Correct. Right. I saw it. Yes. Okay.
So other things here in books, like I store, this is a trail map I store from our area here. The directions on my different cameras. I keep all these PDFs in here, all different things.
Okay, I got it.
Like if I get an itinerary, I email it to myself and I'll put it as a PDF up into books.
Okay.
Donnie, you had a question?
Yes, the way he put a book into books, he doesn't need Wi-Fi to read it, but we would have to be connected to Wi-Fi to read the one that we bookmarked.
So the one we bookmarked or added to home screen is, yeah, you really have to be connected because it's really just a Safari website, but it's got a lot of features because it constantly updates. That's how they get it, so it updates. The book itself, you're downloading that book, and that book won't change when new things come out on the book. That's why it's 13.6. They've had one for 13.4, 13.0, etc. So you have to update it, but it lives on your device, and you don't have to be connected, like if you're on a plane or something.
Okay, but if he wanted to take it with him on the plane, he'll be able to read his.
The one that's a book, yes, and it's a free book.
Okay.
Good deal. Anybody else? Everybody good?
Yes.
I've got a question.
Bert, what was your other question?
Oh, okay. Thanks, Ken. Yes, I have signed up for classes on Renaissance Society. It's we used to go to campus at CSUS on Fridays.
Are they doing Zoom?
Yes. So they will send a meeting announcement with a Zoom connection, but the class might not be until 4 days. So what is the best way to save that site for the Zoom connection?
Actually, usually when you get a Zoom invitation, there's usually a thing that says, do you want to add this to your calendar?
Right.
And that would be what you, and then so if you go into mail, so I'll show you, this is really works great. So if I go to mail, mail, Ken. Let's see if I have anything with dates here. Let's see. I can do Tenaya Lodge. I just did Tenaya Lodge. Oh, that wasn't my reservation. Here's my reservation. So in this reservation, I can go to, where's the date? There it is. So if I tap on the date, it says create event, okay? So when I create event, it puts it into my calendar. I can name it. And I say add. And now what happens is when I go back to my calendar, what was that, October 9th? So if I go to my calendar and go down to October 9th, oh, I misspelled it. It says Renata Lodge. So if I tap that, there's a link here in that app. Since I did it from the mail app, I say show in mail, and look at that. It goes and finds the email.
Very nice.
And I think with a Zoom, when you add it to your calendar, it may even have the Zoom link in it.
Some of them do. This meeting.
Yeah, it all depends on how they decide to send it out. So there's nothing you can do if they didn't send it out correctly.
Right. Well, MacNexus is very good about allowing us to access easily.
Yep. You can thank Bob White for that.
Thank you, Bob.
So here it's trying to autocorrect Tenaya Lodge. So I just hit another character, then a space, then hit that, and then Lodge. And now I've added that to my thing. Okay. Anything else? Anybody?
No, thank you so
I'm
very
going to
much.
get some more water and get ready for our board meeting. And thank you very
Ken.
much. Yes.
If I were going to go buy an Apple Watch, which one should I get?
Are you, okay, so if, starting with the Series 4, they had what's called fall detection. If you're worried about that, you have to get a 4 or a 5, and they don't really sell the 4 anymore. Do you have any heart issues that you want to track?
Yep. I do.
AFib?
Well, I had a surgery for that, but
So you had ablation for your AFib?
Yeah.
But you still like to chart it?
Yeah, I do.
Then you have to get the Apple Watch 5 or the 6 that will be coming out in the fall.
Okay, thanks.
So, because it has an EKG built in. You can get another device from a company called Alive Core.
Yeah, I've already got it.
Well, and now they have a 6-lead one now, though, by the way.
Okay.
It's $149 for the 6-lead version. And you put your 2 fingers on the top, and then there's a sensor on the bottom. You have to put it on your left knee or your left ankle while you're holding it, and it will give you 6 leads. Let me see if mine shows up. I did mine last night, actually. And it's $149. So let's see, since mine's up here, there's my history.
That's what mine usually always is too.
There's what mine, that's a 6-lead from last night.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's that one, but the watch will do it. So if I do, in fact, here, it'll take 30 seconds. I'll fire it up. And this is the Apple Watch 5. So I'm resting my finger on but I shouldn't talk. $15 seconds left. So I did that by simply resting my finger on the crown, and look what popped up on my phone, and I can see there's the one right on the watch, but it will also let you know what's going on. I had a friend, it saved his life. He had the new Apple Watch. He had not enabled the EKG app yet, but he was walking around New York City. It's the guy I ski with. He's 81 years old coming up. And he was walking around New York City, and his watch alerted him that he may be in AFib. He'd never had AFib before, he didn't think. And he had not using the EKG, but the watch said, you should check into this. So he immediately went to Cedars-Sinai, and he was in for 3 days, and they got him on medications, and he had ablation now recently, and he's fine, but it's pretty critical.
I know.
Ken, what is the
thanks.
EKG app?
I'm sorry?
What is the EKG app on your phone? I have the watch, and I see it on the watch, but I've never seen it.
So what happened was I did that reading on my phone, on my watch, and then that report pops up in your notification on your phone.
Okay, and it's never done that for me. So I need
to. You might want it to go in and go to watch and just make sure the notification for EKG is on, but
okay,
it should do it. The phone, the watch will tell you what's going on, but
yeah,
it'll tell you if you're in sinus rhythm or it'll say can't confirm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But Ken, it's Kathy. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was at that meeting where another gentleman shared that he had internal bleeding and he didn't even know it. He was watching television, and 911 came to his house. It alerted 911 for him.
Yeah,
When
you have
I
the option.
at that meeting.
You usually have the option to say no, is what it is. And if you don't respond to it, it will do it. But that could be a fall thing. I'm not sure about it. I mean, there might have been some other issues going on. And that's the beauty of it, is all this data they're collecting, they're able to find different things. In fact, they found that a certain resting heart rate can be an indicator that that person has diabetes, and they might not even know it.
Yeah.
So
thanks.
There's more to come. We'll find out what happens next month with the new, or later this month or the beginning of next month with the new watch.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It'll be recorded and I'll be ready. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.